They say every choice has a price. Noah Bennett learned that truth in the worst way possible. Picture this: a single father racing through a violent storm toward the one meeting that could save his family from financial ruin. Then he sees her, a terrified pregnant woman abandoned on a dark highway, strangers speeding past like she's invisible. Noah has 8 seconds to decide: protect his daughter's future or save a stranger's life. He chose wrong. Or did he? Because the woman he rescued owns everything he's about to lose. Stay with me until the end, hit that like button, and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. Now, let me tell you what really happened that night. The storm hit Manchester County like it had a personal grudge. Noah Bennett gripped the steering wheel of his 15-year-old Honda Civic, watching the windshield wipers lose their battle against sheets of rain so thick the road ahead looked more like a river than asphalt. Thunder cracked overhead, the kind that rattles your chest and makes you wonder if maybe you should have stayed home. Except staying home wasn't an option. Not tonight. Come on, Noah muttered, pressing harder on the accelerator even though he knew the old engine was already giving everything it had. The dashboard clock glowed 6:47 p.m. in harsh green numbers. He had exactly 13 minutes to make a 20-minute drive. 13 minutes to reach the meeting that would determine whether his 8-year-old daughter ate something besides ramen noodles next month. The promotion interview. 5 years of grueling warehouse shifts, 5 years of proving himself indispensable, all coming down to one conversation with Regional Director Marcus Webb. Noah had rehearsed his pitch so many times Emma had started reciting it back to him at breakfast, giggling as she mimicked his serious tone. "Dad sounds like a robot," she'd said that morning, pancake syrup on her chin. "Just be yourself. People like you when you're yourself." Noah had kissed the top of her head, breathing in the strawberry scent of her shampoo, and thought about how impossibly wise 8-year-olds could be when they didn't even realize it. But being himself wouldn't cover the past due notices stuffed in the kitchen drawer. Being himself wouldn't fix the fact that their landlord had started looking at him with that expression, the one that said eviction was coming whether Noah wanted to acknowledge it or not. The management position paid $42,000 more than he made now. $42,000 that represented the difference between surviving and actually living. Lightning split the sky, illuminating the empty highway in stark white. The storm had driven everyone else off the roads. Smart people were home with their families, safe and dry. Noah checked the clock again, 6:49 p.m. He should have left earlier, should have anticipated traffic or the storm, or the fact that Emma's babysitter had been 20 minutes late because her boyfriend's car broke down. Should have. The story of his entire life since Sarah died. His wife's face flickered through his mind, the way she used to look at him when he spiraled into panic about money or the future. She'd put both hands on his shoulders and say, "Noah, we'll figure it out. We always do." Except there was no we anymore. Just him, a scared kid trying to raise an even smaller kid, pretending he had any idea what he was doing. The rain intensified, hammering the roof like fists demanding entry. Noah leaned forward, squinting through the downpour, and that's when he saw it. Brake lights. Dark and motionless on the shoulder about a quarter-mile ahead. His first instinct was relief. At least he wasn't the only idiot driving through this nightmare. Then he got closer and the relief curdled into something else. The vehicle was a black Range Rover, the kind that cost more than Noah made in 2 years. Expensive, sleek, and completely dead on the side of the road with its hazards blinking weakly through the rain. And there was someone inside. Noah's foot eased off the accelerator without him consciously deciding to slow down. The Civic coasted closer. Through the passenger window, he could make out a figure, small, hunched forward, definitely not moving. The clock read 6:52 p.m. Every rational cell in Noah's brain screamed at him to keep driving. This wasn't his problem. Rich people had roadside assistance, insurance, probably 3 different services they could call from their expensive phones. He had 11 minutes before his entire future went up in smoke, but his hands were already turning the wheel. The Civic pulled onto the shoulder 20 feet behind the Range Rover, hydroplaning slightly on the waterlogged gravel. Noah killed the engine and sat there for 3 seconds, rain drumming overhead, asking himself what the hell he was doing. Then he saw her face. The woman had twisted around in the driver's seat, staring at him through the rear window with an expression Noah recognized instantly because he'd worn it himself 100 times. Not just fear, desperation, the kind that came from being completely, terrifyingly alone. She was young, maybe early 30s, with dark hair plastered to her face and eyes that were too wide, too frantic. And even through the rain-streaked glass, Noah could see she was pregnant, very pregnant. Son of a... Noah grabbed his jacket from the passenger seat, threw open the door, and immediately got drenched. The cold hit him like a slap. October rain in northern counties wasn't refreshing. It was punishing. Within 3 steps, his shoes were soaked through, water running down the back of his neck despite the jacket he'd pulled over his head. He reached the Range Rover and knocked on the window. The woman jerked like he'd fired a gun, then seemed to recognize he wasn't a threat, and frantically worked the door handle. It didn't open. "The locks!" she shouted, voice muffled through the glass. "The whole system's dead!" Noah tried the back door. Nothing. The storm had apparently fried the vehicle's electronics completely, turning a $100,000 SUV into an expensive coffin. "The back hatch!" Noah yelled, pointing. "Can you climb through?" She nodded, already moving awkward and slow with her swollen belly. Noah ran to the rear of the vehicle, grabbed the manual release under the bumper, thank God for German engineering, and hauled the hatch open against the wind. The woman half crawled, half fell into his arms, and Noah caught her weight automatically, muscle memory from 5 years of lifting warehouse inventory kicking in. "I've got you," he said. "I've got you, it's okay." "My phone's dead," she gasped, clinging to his jacket. "Everything's dead. He left me." "Who left you?" "My driver. He said..." Her voice cracked. "He said he wasn't getting stuck in the storm and just walked off. Just walked away and left me here." Noah felt anger flash through him, hot and sudden. What kind of person abandoned a pregnant woman on a deserted highway in the middle of a storm? But anger wasn't useful right now. "Okay," Noah said, guiding her toward his car. "Okay, let's get you out of this rain. We'll figure everything else out after." He got her into the passenger seat, slammed the door. Then ran around to the driver's side and threw himself behind the wheel. They both sat there for a moment, dripping and breathing hard, the small car filling with the sound of rain on metal and their ragged breathing. The woman was shaking, not just from cold, shock probably, or fear, or both. Noah cranked the heat up as high as it would go, which wasn't very high in a 15-year-old Civic, but it was something. He shrugged out of his soaked jacket and handed it to her. "Here, it's wet, but it's warmer than nothing." She took it with trembling hands, wrapping it around her shoulders. "Thank you. Thank you, She stopped, pressed a hand to her mouth, and for a horrible second Noah thought she might be sick. Then he realized she was crying. "Hey," Noah said quietly. "You're safe now. I promise. You're safe." "Everyone just drove past," she whispered. "Car after car, and nobody stopped. Nobody even slowed down." Noah didn't have a good answer for that, so he said nothing. He knew exactly why people hadn't stopped. Same reason he almost hadn't. Everyone had somewhere to be, something more important than a stranger's crisis. The clock on the dashboard read 6:57 p.m. 3 minutes. Noah stared at those glowing numbers and felt something vital break apart in his chest. The meeting. Regional Director Webb. The promotion that would have changed everything. All of it. Gone. He became aware the woman was watching him, her dark eyes sharp despite the tears. "You were going somewhere," she said. It wasn't a question. "It's fine. It's not fine. You stopped for me and..." She gestured helplessly at the clock. "You're late for something important. Eat." "Not as important as making sure you're okay," Noah lied. It was the kind of lie you told because the truth, that missing this meeting might cost him everything, would make her feel worse, and she was already barely holding together. The woman studied his face for a long moment, then looked down at her hands. "What's your name?" "Noah Bennett." "I'm Victoria." "Oh." She didn't offer a last name, and Noah didn't ask. Didn't matter anyway. All that mattered right now was getting her somewhere safe and dry. "Okay, Victoria, where can I take you? Hospital? Home?" But Victoria's face did something complicated. Fear and calculation, and something else Noah couldn't identify. "The Grandview Medical Center, about 15 miles north. Mittihi." "Papasaten." Noah knew the place. Expensive private hospital where rich people went for elective surgery and babies delivered by personal obstetricians. The kind of place that charged you just for breathing their air-conditioned air. Made sense, given the Range Rover. Grandview it is. Noah started the engine, checked his mirrors, and pulled back onto the highway. They drove in silence for the first few minutes, Noah focusing on the road while Victoria gradually stopped shaking. The heat was helping. So was the simple fact of not being alone anymore. How far along are you? Noah asked, mostly to fill the silence. 34 weeks. They said. Victoria paused, one hand moving to her belly. They said he might come early. Apparently, he's stubborn. Noah smiled despite everything. Boys usually are. My daughter came 2 weeks late, like she was already making us wait for her. You have a daughter? Emma. She's 8. Is she with her mother tonight? The question hit harder than it should have, even though Victoria couldn't have known. Noah kept his eyes on the road and his voice steady when he answered. Her mother passed away 4 years ago. Victoria's sharp intake of breath was audible even over the rain. I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have. It's okay. You didn't know. But the car felt smaller now. But the waited with the kind of heavy silence that comes from stepping on emotional landmines. Noah wished he hadn't said anything, wished he could have just deflected or changed the subject. Victoria was the one who broke the silence this time. It must be hard, raising her alone. Shasa. Yeah, Noah said simply, because what else was there to say? It was hard. Every single day was hard. He loved Emma more than his own life, but that didn't make single parenthood any less exhausting. She's lucky to have you, Victoria said quietly. Noah wasn't sure about that, but he appreciated the sentiment anyway. They passed an exit sign, 10 miles to Grandview Medical Center. The storm was finally starting to ease, rain shifting from torrential to merely heavy. Can I ask you something? Victoria said. Sure. Why did you stop? Noah glanced at her, surprised. What do you mean? Everyone else drove past. They saw me and they just kept going. But you stopped even though... She gestured at the clock again, now reading 7:12 p.m. Even though it cost you something, why? Noah thought about it. The real answer was complicated, tangled up with memories of the night Sarah died and how many strangers had helped him in those horrible first weeks. How his neighbor had watched Emma for days without asking for anything. How the guy at the grocery store had quietly paid for their food when Noah's card got declined. Small kindnesses from people who didn't have to care but did anyway. Because somebody needed help, Noah said finally. That's reason enough. Victoria looked at him like he'd said something profound instead of obvious. Not for most people. Yeah, well, most people are idiots. That startled a laugh out of her, sharp and unexpected in the small car. It transformed her face completely, made her look younger and less like someone carrying the weight of the world. They drove the rest of the way in more comfortable silence. By the time Noah pulled into the Grandview Medical Center parking lot, the rain had dwindled to a drizzle. The hospital was all glass and expensive lighting, the kind of place that screamed money from every pristine corner. Noah pulled up to the emergency entrance and put the car in park. Thank you, Victoria said, already reaching for the door handle. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't... Don't think about it, Noah interrupted. You're safe, that's what matters. Victoria paused with her hand on the door, then turned back to him. What meeting did you miss tonight? Noah hesitated, then figured there was no point lying now. Job interview, management position at the warehouse where I work. Took me 5 years to get this shot. Something flickered across Victoria's face. Guilt, maybe, or determination. Can you reschedule? Probably not. It's not that kind of interview. I'm sorry. Don't be. I made my choice. Victoria studied him for another long moment, like she was trying to memorize his face or decode something written there. Then she reached into the pocket of her expensive coat and pulled out a business card, pressing it into his hand. If you ever need anything, she said, anything at all, call that number. Noah glanced down at the card. Heavy stock, embossed lettering, a phone number, but no name or company logo. Victoria, you don't have to, I know I don't have to. I want to. She smiled, small and sad. You gave up something important to help a stranger. The least I can do is make sure you have a way to reach me if you need help someday. Before Noah could respond, she was out of the car, moving toward the bright hospital entrance with one hand pressed to her lower back. A woman in scrubs immediately appeared, guiding her inside with the kind of attentive care reserved for VIP patients. Noah sat in his idling Civic, watching until Victoria disappeared through the automatic doors. Then he looked down at the business card in his hand, ran his thumb over the embossed numbers, and tucked it into his wallet. He had no intention of calling. Victoria seemed nice, probably felt guilty about the meeting, but rich people always forgot about promises made to regular folks once the crisis passed. Noah checked the time, 7:34 p.m. The meeting had started 24 minutes ago. He could drive back to the warehouse, try to explain, maybe salvage something from the wreckage of this night. Except he knew how these things worked. Marcus Webb wasn't the understanding type. Missing this meeting wasn't a forgivable mistake. It was proof Noah wasn't serious about advancement, wasn't reliable, wasn't worth the investment. 5 years of perfect attendance, overtime shifts, and going above and beyond, all erased in one night. Noah pulled out of the hospital parking lot and headed home, exhaustion settling into his bones like an old, familiar ache. Chunk. Emma was already asleep when he got home, curled up on the couch with her favorite blanket and a half-finished drawing of what looked like a dragon fighting a spaceship. Mrs. Chen, their neighbor who sometimes watched Emma when Noah's regular babysitter fell through, looked up from her knitting with a knowing expression. "Rough night?" she asked. "You could say that." Noah carefully scooped Emma into his arms, feeling her automatically curl against his chest, still deep asleep. She was getting too big for this, would probably be too heavy to carry soon, and the thought made his throat tight. She ate dinner, did her homework, only argued about bedtime twice, Mrs. Chen reported, gathering her things. Average Emma evening. "Thanks for staying late." "No trouble." Mrs. Chen paused at the door, studying him with the sharp eyes of someone who'd survived 83 years by paying attention. "Whatever happened tonight, it'll work out. Things usually do." Noah wished he could believe that. After Mrs. Chen left, he carried Emma to her small bedroom, barely big enough for a twin bed and dresser, but she decorated the walls with drawings and a poster of some boy band she was currently obsessed with. He tucked her in, kissed her forehead, and stood there for a moment watching her sleep. She looked so much like Sarah it hurt. Same dark hair that never stayed neat, same slightly upturned nose, same way of frowning a little, even while dreaming like she was solving problems in her sleep. "I'm sorry, baby," Noah whispered. "I'm trying. I swear I'm trying." Emma didn't answer, just shifted under her blankets and kept sleeping the deep, fearless sleep of children who didn't know their father was drowning. Bye. Noah's alarm went off at 5:30 a.m., same as always. He'd barely slept, mind churning through various disaster scenarios. By the time he dragged himself out of bed, he'd mentally composed and discarded 17 different explanations for why he'd missed the meeting. None of them sounded even remotely believable. He made breakfast on autopilot, eggs and toast for Emma, black coffee for himself. She appeared in the kitchen at 6:45, already dressed in her school uniform, backpack trailing from one hand. "You look terrible," Emma announced, climbing onto a kitchen chair. "Good morning to you too, sweetheart." "I'm serious, Dad. You have zombie eyes." She peered at him critically. Did something bad happen? Kids had radar for this stuff. Noah considered lying, then remembered what Sarah used to say about treating Emma like she was smart enough to handle truth. "I might have messed up at work last night," he admitted, sliding eggs onto her plate. "But we'll figure it out." Emma processed this while chewing toast. "Because you were late?" "Yeah. But you're never late. You're like the most on-time person ever." Noah smiled despite everything. Sometimes things happen that we can't control. "Did someone need help?" He looked at her, surprised. "What makes you think that?" Emma shrugged, the gesture so perfectly Sarah it made his chest ache. "You're always helping people. Like when Mrs. Chen's sink broke and you spent your whole Saturday fixing it. Or when Tommy's mom's car wouldn't start and you drove them to school for 2 weeks. That's different. Those are people we know. So? Helping is helping." Emma took another bite of eggs, completely matter of fact. "If you were late because you helped someone, then you didn't mess up. You did the right thing." Noah stared at his 8-year-old daughter and wondered when she'd gotten so wise. Thanks, Em. No problem. Can I have more orange juice? The warehouse was a 20-minute drive from their apartment, a massive gray building that processed online orders for everything from books to blenders. Noah had worked there for 5 years, starting in the loading dock and gradually working his way up to night supervisor. It wasn't glamorous work, wasn't even particularly interesting, but it was steady, and steady mattered when you had a kid depending on you. Noah parked in his usual spot and sat there for a moment, gathering courage. The morning shift was already in full swing, trucks backing up to loading docks, the constant beep, beep, beep of forklifts moving pallets. He could see some of his team through the warehouse windows. Jackson, who'd been there even longer than Noah. Maria and David, the new hires he'd spent weeks training. They were good people, hard workers who deserved better than the poverty wages the company paid. The management position would have let him change that, at least a little. Would have given him authority to push for raises, better schedules, actual benefits instead of the bare minimum garbage they currently had. Too late for that now. Noah grabbed his work vest from the passenger seat and headed inside, trying to project confidence he absolutely didn't feel. He made it about 30 feet before someone called his name. "Bennett, my office. Now, Achens, but at Prosi." Richard Strauss, the shift manager, stood in the doorway of his glass-walled office with his arms crossed. He was a big guy who'd gone soft around the middle, the kind who compensated for insecurity by screaming at people who couldn't fight back. Noah had spent 5 years staying on Strauss's good side, which mostly meant keeping his head down and not making waves. "Yes, sir," Noah said, already knowing this was going to be bad. Strauss's office was barely big enough for a desk and 2 chairs, walls covered with production charts and efficiency metrics that Strauss didn't actually understand. He shut the door behind them with more force than necessary. "Sit." Noah sat. Strauss remained standing, looming over the desk in what he probably thought was an intimidating power move. "You want to tell me what happened last night?" "There was an emergency." I don't care." Strauss's voice was flat. "You missed the meeting with Director Webb. Do you have any idea how that made me look? I recommended you for that position. I went to bat for you." This was a lie. Strauss had actively tried to block Noah's application until HR forced him to sign off on it, but arguing about that now seemed pointless. "I understand," Noah said carefully. "But if I could just explain—" There's nothing to explain. You no-showed the most important meeting of your career. That tells me everything I need to know about your commitment level." "A woman was stranded on the highway," Noah said, frustration bleeding through despite his best efforts. "She was pregnant, alone, and everyone else just drove past. I couldn't leave her there." Strauss stared at him like he'd started speaking another language. "So you're telling me you blew off Director Webb to play hero for some stranger?" "I helped someone who needed help." "You threw away a $40,000 promotion to help someone who probably had a cell phone and roadside assistance." Noah felt his jaw clench. Her phone was dead. The whole car was dead, and her driver had abandoned her. "Not my problem. Not your problem either, unless you made it your problem." Strauss leaned forward, palms flat on his desk. "Let me explain something to you, Bennett. The world doesn't reward people who waste time on strangers. It rewards people who show up, who prioritize, who understand what actually matters. What actually matters is whether I'm a decent human being. What actually matters is whether you're an asset to this company." Strauss straightened up, and Noah saw something ugly flash across his face. "Director Webb called me at 7:30 last night. Know what he said? He said anyone who can't even show up to their own promotion interview isn't worth his time." Noah's stomach dropped. "Look, if I could just talk to him." "You can't. He's already chosen someone else for the position." Strauss smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. "Guess who?" The answer clicked into place. "Your nephew. Justin's been working hard, deserves the opportunity." Justin Strauss was 23 years old and had been at the warehouse for exactly 4 months. He spent most of his shifts on his phone and had once caused a minor fire by leaving a forklift running unattended. But he was family, and family mattered more than 5 years of competence. "This is bullshit," Noah said quietly. "Excuse me?" "I said this is bullshit. Justin doesn't know anything about management. He barely knows how to operate the inventory system." "Careful, Bennett. Or what? You'll fire me." Noah stood up, 5 years of swallowed frustration finally breaking through. Go ahead. Fire the guy who stayed late every time someone called in sick. Fire the guy who trained half your current workforce. Fire the guy who made your metrics look good enough that you kept your job when corporate cleaned house last year. Strauss's face went red. You think you're indispensable? No, I think I'm tired of watching people get rewarded for nepotism while the rest of us kill ourselves for scraps. Get out. What? You're done here. Pack your locker and get out of my warehouse. The words hung in the air between them like smoke. Noah felt the bottom drop out of his world. You're firing me? You're insubordinate, unreliable, and clearly not a culture fit. Strauss was already pulling termination paperwork from his desk drawer, filling in Noah's name with quick, angry strokes. Final paycheck will be mailed within 5 business days. Security will escort you out. Richard, wait. We're done here. He déchète. 20 minutes later, Noah walked out of the warehouse carrying a cardboard box containing 5 years of his life. His extra work vest. The coffee mug Emma had decorated for Father's Day 3 years ago. A photo of Sarah from their wedding day that he'd kept taped to his locker. Some protein bars he'd stashed for double shifts. Not much to show for half a decade of loyalty. The morning sun felt too bright, too cheerful for what had just happened. Noah loaded the box into his Civic's trunk and stood there in the parking lot, trying to figure out what the hell he was supposed to do now. The smart move would be to start job hunting immediately, update his resume, call every warehouse and logistics company within 50 miles, take whatever he could get, even if it paid less. Except Noah was so tired of smart moves, tired of playing by rules that only seemed to apply to people like him. He pulled out his phone and stared at it for a long moment. Then he opened his wallet, found the business card Victoria had given him, and typed the number into his contacts. He didn't call. Not yet. But having it there felt like something. A possibility, maybe. Or just the illusion of one. Noah drove home with the windows down, letting October air rush through the car, and tried not to think about how he was going to explain to Emma that their already fragile life had just gotten a lot more fragile. The apartment felt too quiet when he got back. Emma wouldn't be home from school for hours. Mrs. Chen was probably at her daughter's house. No witnesses to watch him fall apart. Noah set the cardboard box on the kitchen counter, made himself a cup of coffee he didn't want, and sat at the table where Emma had eaten breakfast a few hours ago. He should call the landlord, explain he'd need a few extra days on rent this month. Should start looking at food banks because the groceries weren't going to stretch as far without a paycheck coming. Should. Instead, Noah pulled out his phone, stared at Victoria's number for a long moment, then set the phone face down on the table. She'd said to call if he ever needed anything, but asking for help felt like admitting defeat. And Noah wasn't quite ready for that yet. He'd figure something out. He always did. The problem was, he was running out of things to figure out with. Noah spent the rest of the day in a haze of job applications and mounting panic. By the time Emma's bus dropped her off at 3:15, he'd applied to 17 different positions and heard back from exactly 0. The apartment was still quiet, still empty except for the sound of his daughter's backpack hitting the floor and her cheerful voice calling out, "Dad, you home early?" "Yeah, sweetheart, in the kitchen." Emma appeared in the doorway, took one look at his face, and her smile faded. What happened? Noah had planned a whole speech on the drive home. Something reassuring about new opportunities and how sometimes changes were actually good things in disguise. But looking at his daughter's worried eyes, he couldn't manage the lie. "I lost my job today," he said quietly. Emma went very still. "Because you helped that lady?" "Yeah, because of that." "That's not fair." "No, it's not." She crossed the kitchen and wrapped her arms around him, pressing her face against his shoulder. Noah hugged her back, feeling like the world's biggest failure. "It's going to be okay," Emma whispered, and the fact that she was comforting him instead of the other way around made everything so much worse. "I know, baby, I know." They stayed like that for a while. Emma's small arms tight around his neck, Noah trying to memorize the feeling of being needed by someone who still believed he could fix anything. Eventually, Emma pulled back and looked at him seriously. "We're going to be okay, though, right? We're not going to lose our house?" Noah wanted to promise her they wouldn't. Noah wanted to say that of course they'd be fine. He'd find another job tomorrow. Everything would work out, but he'd promised Sarah he'd never lie to their daughter about important things. I don't know, he admitted, but I'm going to do everything I can to make sure we are. Emma nodded slowly, processing this. Okay, then I'll help. You'll help? Yeah, I can get a job. Mrs. Patterson's always looking for people to walk her dog. And maybe I could babysit or… Noah caught her hands, his chest tight. You're 8. You shouldn't be worrying about jobs. You're 32. You shouldn't have to worry about everything by yourself. Sometimes his daughter was too damn smart for her own good. Tell you what, Noah said. How about we both just focus on today? Tomorrow, we can worry about tomorrow. That doesn't sound like a very good plan. Probably not, but it's what we've got. Emma considered this, then shrugged. Okay, what's for dinner? Noah looked at the kitchen, at the nearly empty fridge and cabinets that needed restocking, at the life he'd built that was currently crumbling around them. Then he looked at his daughter, who was still standing there waiting for an answer, and made a decision. How about we go out, he said. Pizza place on Morrison Street? We don't go out for dinner. We do tonight. But, Dad, Emma, we're going to have pizza, and we're going to not think about anything else for exactly 1 hour. Deal? She studied him for a moment, then smiled, small and cautious, but real. Deal. They went to Antonio's, the cheap pizza place where they did all-you-can-eat on Wednesdays. Emma loaded up on breadsticks and rambled about her day at school, something about a science project on volcanoes and how her friend Madison had gotten in trouble for talking during math. Noah listened and nodded and tried to be present instead of catastrophizing about the future. It almost worked. They were walking back to the car, Emma holding his hand and chattering about whether they could stop for ice cream sometime this week, when Noah's phone buzzed. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him stop and swipe to accept. Hello? Is this Noah Bennett? A woman's voice, professional but warm. Yes? Mr. Bennett, my name is Claire Morrison. I'm calling on behalf of someone you helped last night during the storm. She asked me to reach out to you. Noah's heart skipped. Victoria? Yes. She wanted to thank you properly and wondered if you might have time to meet tomorrow afternoon. I know it's short notice, but I have time, Noah interrupted, then immediately felt stupid for sounding so eager. Wonderful. Would 2 o'clock work? I can text you the address. 2 o'clock is fine. Perfect. And Mr. Bennett? She asked me to mention that this is important. Please don't dismiss the invitation. The line went dead before Noah could respond. He stood there on the sidewalk phone still pressed to his ear, trying to process what had just happened. Who was that? Emma asked. Someone I helped last night. The pregnant lady? Yeah, she wants to meet tomorrow. Emma's eyes went wide. Maybe she's going to give you a reward, like in movies when someone rescues a princess and gets gold coins. Real life doesn't work like that, sweetheart, but maybe this time it does. Noah looked down at his daughter's hopeful face and wished he could believe in fairy tales again. But he'd learned a long time ago that the world didn't hand out rewards for doing the right thing. The world mostly just kicked you while you were down and told you it was your own fault for falling in the first place. Still, he had nothing to lose by meeting with Victoria tomorrow. Nothing except a few hours he'd otherwise spend desperately job hunting. Maybe, Noah said, squeezing Emma's hand. Maybe this time it does. The address Claire Morrison texted turned out to be in Riverside Heights, the kind of neighborhood where lawns looked professionally maintained and the cars and driveways cost more than Noah's entire year's salary used to be. Noah checked the address 3 times before pulling up to the gate, convinced his GPS had made a mistake. Beyond the iron bars and stone pillars stretched a driveway that curved up toward a house. No, not a house, an estate that looked like something out of a magazine Emma sometimes flipped through at the dentist's office. A speaker crackled to life before he could decide whether to turn around and leave. Mr. Bennett? Yes. Come on up. Miss Sinclair is expecting you. The gates swung open smoothly, and Noah drove through, feeling like an imposter. His 15-year-old Civic looked embarrassingly out of place against the manicured landscape, the perfectly trimmed hedges, the fountain in the circular driveway that probably cost more than his rent. A woman in a crisp gray suit was waiting at the front door. She was maybe 50, with silver hair pulled back and the kind of posture that suggested she'd never slouched a day in her life. "Mr. Bennett, I'm Claire Morrison, Ms. Sinclair's executive assistant." She extended a hand and Noah shook it, acutely aware of his work boots and the fact that his nicest shirt still had a small stain near the collar from when Emma spilled juice last week. "Thanks for having me. I'm still not entirely sure why I'm here." "Ms. Sinclair will explain everything." Claire stepped aside, gesturing him into an entrance hall that was bigger than Noah's entire apartment. Marble floors, a chandelier that looked like it belonged in a palace, and a staircase that curved up to a second floor. "She's in the sunroom. If you'll follow me, Noah followed, trying not to gawk like a tourist. They passed through what looked like a formal living room nobody actually lived in, then a library with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, and finally emerged into a bright space with glass walls overlooking an actual garden. Victoria was sitting in a chair by the windows, and Noah almost didn't recognize her. Gone was the terrified, rain-soaked woman from 2 nights ago. This Victoria wore expensive casual clothes, her dark hair styled perfectly, makeup subtle but clearly professional. She looked like she belonged in this house, in this life, in a way Noah would never understand. But when she saw him, her face broke into a genuine smile that reminded him of the woman in his car, scared and grateful and human. "Noah, thank you for coming." "Of course. How are you feeling? Everything okay with the baby?" "Everything's fine. They kept me overnight for observation, but we're both healthy." She gestured to the chair across from her. "Please sit. Can Claire get you anything? Coffee? Water?" "I'm fine, thanks." Claire nodded and disappeared, closing the glass doors behind her with a soft click. Victoria waited until they were alone before speaking again. "I want to apologize for the cloak and dagger routine, having Claire call instead of reaching out myself. I know it probably seemed strange." "A little," Noah admitted, "but I figured you had your reasons." "I do." Victoria leaned forward slightly, her expression serious. "The first thing you need to understand is that I wasn't entirely honest with you the other night. Not because I wanted to deceive you, but because I've learned to be careful about who knows certain things about my life." Noah felt something cold settle in his stomach. "What things?" "My full name is Victoria Sinclair. Does that mean anything to you?" Noah searched his memory and came up empty. "Should it?" Maybe not. I prefer it that way." Victoria picked up a tablet from the side table and handed it to him. "This is me." Noah looked at the screen and felt his brain stutter. The webpage showed a professional photo of Victoria, more formal, more intimidating, beside a headline that read, "Victoria Sinclair, CEO of Sinclair Global Industries, announces expansion into green technology sector." He scrolled down. More articles, more photos. Victoria at business conferences, Victoria shaking hands with people in suits, Victoria standing in front of corporate buildings with the Sinclair logo prominently displayed. "You're a CEO, Mkes." "I'm the CEO," Victoria corrected gently. "Sinclair Global is a holding company. We own 37 subsidiaries across 15 industries. Manufacturing, technology, logistics, retail, about $40 billion in annual revenue." Noah looked up from the tablet, then back down at the screen, then up again. His mouth felt dry. "The warehouse where I worked. Morrison Logistics." "One of ours. You own the company that just fired me." "Sit." "Not directly. It's 3 corporate layers removed, but yes, technically Morrison Logistics operates under the Sinclair Global umbrella." Victoria's expression was difficult to read. "I didn't know about your firing when I asked Claire to invite you here. I only found out this morning when I had her look into your background." Noah set the tablet down carefully, afraid he might throw it otherwise. "You investigated me? I wanted to know who you were. The man who stopped to help a stranger when he had every reason to keep driving." Victoria's voice was quiet. "What I found was someone who's worked his tail off for 5 years, never missed a shift until 2 nights ago, and got fired for being late to one meeting." "Yeah, well, that's what happens when you work for people who don't give a damn about you. It's what happens when you work for people like Richard Strauss, corrupt middle managers who think their small amount of power makes them untouchable." Noah stared at her. "What are you talking about?" Victoria pulled up something else on her tablet and turned it toward him. "Spreadsheets, emails, what looked like financial records. After I found out what happened to you, I had my corporate compliance team do a deep dive into Morrison Logistics, specifically into Richard Strauss's management practices. She pointed to one of the documents. He's been running a kickback scheme for the last 3 years. Vendors pay him under the table for preferential treatment. He fires good employees and replaces them with friends and family he can control. And he's been doctoring time cards to make himself look more efficient than he actually is. Noah felt dizzy. How did you find all this in one day? I have very good people working for me. And once they knew what to look for, the evidence wasn't particularly well hidden. Strauss got comfortable, sloppy. Victoria leaned back in her chair. He's being terminated today, along with 3 other managers who were complicit in the scheme. Just like that? Just like that. My company doesn't tolerate corruption. Victoria's expression hardened. I built Sinclair Global from almost nothing after my father died. Every subsidiary, every acquisition, every business decision was mine. And I'll be damned if I let middle managers destroy what I built by treating people like disposable resources. Noah didn't know what to say. The woman sitting across from him wasn't the terrified person he'd helped 2 nights ago. This was someone who commanded billions of dollars and could apparently end careers with a phone call. It should have been intimidating. Maybe it was. Why am I here, Victoria? Because I owe you. You don't owe me anything. I did what any decent person would do. Except most people didn't do it, Victoria said sharply. Everyone else drove past and left me there. You stopped, even though it cost you everything. Your job, your promotion, probably your financial security. You sacrificed all of that for a stranger. I didn't think of it as a sacrifice. I just saw someone who needed help. Victoria studied him for a long moment. That's exactly why I want to offer you something. If this is about money, it's not about money. Not directly. Victoria stood up, moving to the window overlooking the garden. I've been thinking about something for a while now, a project that's important to me personally. After what happened the other night, I've decided to move forward with it. Noah waited, sensing this was leading somewhere he couldn't predict. I want to create a foundation, Victoria continued. An organization dedicated to helping working families who fall through the cracks. People who work hard but can't get ahead because the system is rigged against them. Single parents, wage workers. People one emergency away from losing everything. She turned to face him. People like you, Victoria. Let me finish. This foundation needs someone to run it. Someone who understands what it's like to struggle, to work yourself to exhaustion and still barely make ends meet. Someone who has credibility with the people we're trying to help. Ishi otai otorein. She paused. I want that person to be you. Noah's brain felt like it had short-circuited. You want me to run a foundation? I want you to build it with me. Help me figure out what struggling families actually need instead of what wealthy donors think they need. Be the bridge between the people who have resources and the people who need them. I don't know anything about running a foundation. You know what it's like to raise a child alone, to choose between paying rent and buying groceries, to work for people who treat you like you're invisible. Victoria's voice was intense now. That knowledge is worth more than any MBA or nonprofit management course. Noah stood up, needing to move, needing to process. This is crazy. Is it? I have money and power, but no real understanding of what life is like for most people. You have that understanding, but no resources to do anything with it. Together, we could actually make a difference. You don't even know me. I know you stopped to help a pregnant woman in a storm when everyone else abandoned her. I know you lost your job protecting your daughter's future because you refused to compromise your values. Victoria crossed her arms. I know more about your character from one night than I've learned about most people in years. Noah turned to look at her, and for the first time since entering this house, he saw past the expensive clothes and the CEO persona to the woman underneath. Someone who was lonely, maybe, or tired of being surrounded by people who only saw her money. Why does this matter so much to you? He asked. Victoria was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was softer. Because I know what it's like to be invisible. Before I took over my father's company, nobody took me seriously. I was decorative, expected to smile and marry someone appropriate and let men run everything. She looked down at her hands. After he died and I refused to sell, people said I'd destroy everything he built within a year. They called me incompetent, emotional, incapable of leadership. But you proved them wrong. I worked myself half to death proving them wrong. 20-hour days, no personal life, no room for mistakes. And I won. Built something even bigger than what my father had. Victoria's expression was complicated. But winning like that isolates you. People see the money and the power, and that's all they see. Nobody stops to check if you're actually okay. Noah understood that feeling better than he wanted to admit. The other night when you stopped, Victoria continued, you didn't know who I was. Didn't know about the money or the companies or any of it. You just saw someone who needed help, and you helped. Do you know how rare that is in my world? Your world isn't my world. No, but maybe that's the point. Victoria met his eyes. I'm not asking you to become someone you're not. I'm asking you to help me build something that actually matters. Something that uses my resources to solve problems people like you understand. Noah wanted to say yes. The job, the salary, the chance to actually help people instead of just surviving day to day, it was everything he needed. But something made him hesitate. What's the catch? Ma'am. Victoria smiled, and it wasn't entirely happy. The catch is that people will say terrible things about you. They'll claim you manipulated me, that you're taking advantage, that you don't deserve this opportunity. Social media will be brutal. Tabloids will dig into your life. And everyone associated with me becomes a target for criticism. Sounds fun. It's not. It's exhausting and invasive and sometimes cruel. Victoria's voice was steady. I need you to know what you'd be signing up for. This isn't a simple job offer. It's complicated and public and will change your life in ways you can't predict. Noah thought about Emma, about the apartment they were probably going to lose, about the stack of job applications he'd sent out yesterday that would likely go nowhere. Then he thought about what Victoria was actually offering. Not just a job, but a chance to help people who were drowning the same way he'd been drowning. How much time do I have to think about it? As much as you need. But Noah? Victoria's expression was serious. I'm not offering this because I feel guilty about your firing. I'm offering it because I genuinely think you're the right person. If you decide you're not interested, that's fine. No hard feelings. But don't say no because you don't think you deserve this. Can I ask you something? Of course. The baby's father, where is he in all this? Victoria's face went carefully blank. Not in the picture. Does he know about Ishi? He knows. He made it clear he wasn't interested in being a parent. Her voice was flat, controlled. So I'm doing this alone. Same as you. Noah saw the pain underneath the professional mask and recognized it. Different circumstances, different tax brackets, but the same fundamental loneliness of raising a child without a partner. It's hard, he said quietly. Doing it alone. Yes, it is. Victoria touched her belly briefly. But we manage, don't we? Because the alternative isn't acceptable. Yeah, we manage. They stood there for a moment. Two people from completely different worlds who somehow understood each other anyway. I need to think about this, Noah said finally. Talk to my daughter. Figure out what it would mean for both of us. Yes. Of course. Take whatever time you need. Victoria pulled out her phone. I'm going to have Claire send you a formal proposal. Salary, benefits, job description, everything in writing. Look it over. Ask questions, do your research. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. You haven't said yes. Noah smiled despite himself. Not yet, but I'm thinking about it. Claire appeared as if summoned, escorting Noah back through the mansion to the front door. He was halfway to his car when Victoria called out from the entrance. Noah? He turned back. Whatever you decide, thank you. For stopping that night. For treating me like a person instead of a CEO or a dollar sign. She smiled, and this time it reached her eyes. That meant more than you know. Noah nodded, not trusting himself to speak, and drove away from Riverside Heights, with his head spinning and possibilities blooming in his chest like spring flowers. The formal proposal arrived in his email before he even made it home. Noah pulled over in a grocery store parking lot to read it on his phone, and the numbers made his hand shake. Salary, $125,000 annually, Full benefits including health insurance, dental, vision, and a retirement plan. Flexible schedule to accommodate family needs. Office space provided, but significant work-from-home flexibility. Budget authority over foundation operations. It was more money than Noah had ever imagined making. More than enough to give Emma the stable life she deserved, to stop choosing between electricity and groceries, to maybe even save for her college fund. But it was the last paragraph that made his throat tight. The Sinclair Foundation will focus on direct family assistance, advocacy for worker protections, and systemic change to address income inequality. Our mission is simple: help people who work hard but can't get ahead because the deck is stacked against them. We believe everyone deserves dignity, stability, and a real chance at building a better future. Noah sat in his car reading that paragraph over and over until the words blurred. This was real. Victoria was offering him a chance to do something that actually mattered, to help people the way he'd needed help so many times. He should say yes. The logical part of his brain was screaming at him to say yes immediately before she changed her mind or realized she was making a mistake. But the scared part, the part that had learned not to trust good things because they usually came with hidden costs, kept whispering warnings. What if he screwed it up? What if he wasn't smart enough or educated enough or whatever enough to do this job properly? What if Victoria realized she'd made a terrible mistake and he ended up right back where he started? Except now Emma would have gotten used to stability before losing it again? Noah's phone buzzed. Emma, texting from Mrs. Chen's apartment where she went after school. Dad, when are you coming home? Mrs. Chen is teaching me to knit, but I'm really bad at it, and also she made cookies. Noah smiled and typed back, on my way. Save me some cookies. 3 heart emojis appeared instantly, because Emma was 8 and used emojis the way some people use punctuation. He drove home thinking about what he'd tell her, how to explain an opportunity this big without getting her hopes up in case it fell through, how to be the stable parent she needed while his own life felt like it was splitting into 2 completely different possible futures. Mrs. Chen answered the door wearing a bright yellow cardigan and holding knitting needles. Your daughter has many talents, she announced. Knitting is not one of them. Hey! Emma appeared behind her, holding up something that might have been intended as a scarf, but looked more like a lumpy snake. I'm learning. You're learning that some skills require patience, Mrs. Chen corrected, but she was smiling. Go on, both of you. These cookies won't stay warm forever. Emma grabbed Noah's hand and dragged him toward their apartment, chattering about her day at school. Something about a pop quiz in spelling that she'd aced, and how Jordan had gotten in trouble for putting glue in Melissa's hair during art class. And could they please get a hamster because her friend Zoe had one, and it was so cute. We'll see, Noah said, the universal parent response that meant, probably not, but I don't want to say no right now. Their apartment felt smaller than usual after spending time in Victoria's estate. The living room with its worn couch and carpet that had seen better days. The kitchen where the cabinets didn't quite close properly. The bathroom with the permanent stain on the ceiling from when the upstairs neighbor's toilet had leaked 2 years ago. But it was home, and Emma had never complained about any of it because she didn't know any different. Dad, you're being weird, Emma said, looking up at him critically. You have your thinking face on. I have a thinking face? Yeah. You get all squinty and your mouth does this thing. She demonstrated, scrunching up her face in what was probably meant to be an impression of him. I do not look like that. You totally do. So what are you thinking about? Noah sat down at the kitchen table and gestured for Emma to join him. Remember the woman I helped the other night during the storm? The pregnant lady you rescued. Like a superhero, but with an old car instead of superpowers. Exactly like that. Well, I went to meet with her today. Emma's eyes went wide. Did she give you a reward? I told you. Movies are real. Not exactly a reward, more like a job offer. What kind of job? Us. Noah tried to figure out how to explain foundations and nonprofits to an 8-year-old. She wants to start an organization that helps families who are struggling. People who work really hard but still have trouble paying bills or taking care of their kids. She wants me to help run it. Emma processed this seriously. Would it pay money? Yeah, good money. Enough that we wouldn't have to worry about rent or groceries anymore. Then you should definitely do it. But eat. It's not that simple, Em. This would be a really big change. We'd have to, I don't know, figure out a lot of things. And there might be some weird stuff that comes with it. What kind of weird stuff? The woman who offered me the job, Victoria, she's really rich and kind of famous. If I work for her, people might be interested in us. Want to know about our lives. Maybe say things that aren't nice. Emma frowned. Why would people be mean? Because some people don't like it when good things happen to regular folks like us. They think we don't deserve it. That's stupid. Yeah, it is. Noah reached across the table and took Emma's hand. But I need you to understand that if I say yes to this, things will be different. Maybe better in a lot of ways, but definitely different. And I won't do it if you're not okay with it. Emma was quiet for a long moment, her face serious in that way that made her look older than 8. Mom would want you to say yes, she said finally. Noah felt his chest constrict. What makes you say that? Because whenever you were scared of something, Mom always said you should do it anyway. She said being scared just means something's important. Emma squeezed his hand. This is important, right? Yeah, sweetheart, it's important. Then you should do it. We can handle different. We're good at handling stuff. Noah looked at his daughter and wondered when she'd gotten so brave, so certain that they could face whatever came next. Maybe she was right. Maybe they'd survived enough hard things that they could handle this too. Okay, Noah said. Okay, I'll tell her yes. Emma grinned, the kind of full-face smile that reminded him so much of Sarah, it hurt. Can we celebrate? Maybe with ice cream? We literally just had cookies at Mrs. Chen's. That was cookies. This is celebration ice cream. They're different. Noah laughed, and it felt good, like maybe things were actually going to be okay. Fine, but just this once. You always say just this once, and I always mean it. They went to the corner store that sold ice cream by the pint, and Emma picked chocolate chip cookie dough while Noah got plain vanilla because he was boring and accepted it. They ate straight from the containers sitting on the living room couch, and Emma told him more about her day while ice cream dripped onto her shirt. For one night, things felt almost normal. Noah emailed Victoria after Emma went to bed, short and simple. I'm in. When do I start? That's part 1. Her response came through within minutes. Monday, 9 a.m. Claire will send details. Thank you, Noah. You won't regret this. Noah hoped she was right. Noah hoped she... The weekend passed in a blur of nervous energy and practical preparation. Noah researched foundations, read articles about Victoria and Sinclair Global, tried to figure out what exactly he'd gotten himself into. Emma helped him pick out a new shirt for his first day, or rather, she vetoed his choices until he agreed to the blue one that she said made him look like a dad from TV instead of a dad from real life. I am a dad from real life, Noah protested. Yeah, but now you're also kind of fancy. You need to look the part. Mrs. Chen offered to watch Emma after school until Noah figured out his new schedule. She waved off his thanks with the air of someone who'd heard enough gratitude for one lifetime. You're a good father, she said firmly. This woman, this Victoria, she sees that. Don't waste time questioning her judgment. Just do the work. Monday morning arrived with October sunshine and Noah's stomach doing somersaults. He dropped Emma at school, listened to her excited predictions about what his first day would be like, and promised to tell her everything when he picked her up. The address Claire had sent was downtown, a modern office building with glass walls and a lobby that looked like it belonged in an architecture magazine, very different from the warehouse environment Noah was used to. Claire was waiting by the elevators, looking professional and completely comfortable in this world of marble floors and expensive art. Morning, Noah. Ready? As ready as I'm going to be, That's the spirit. She smiled, and it made her look less intimidating. Top floor. We've set up an office for you next to Victoria's. The elevator ride up was smooth and silent. Noah watched the floor numbers climb and tried to calm his racing heart. The top floor was all clean lines and natural light, open-plan workspace with small private offices along the windows. People looked up as Noah and Claire walked past, and Noah felt their curiosity like physical weight. Claire stopped at an office with glass walls and a door that had a temporary placard. Noah Bennett, Foundation Director. This is you, she said. Victoria's office is next door. She's in a meeting right now, but asked if you could wait. She wants to walk you through everything personally. Noah stepped into the office and tried not to feel like an imposter. Desk, computer, bookshelves that were currently empty, a view of the city that he'd never imagined having. On the desk was a folder labeled Foundation Draft Proposal and a note in handwriting he didn't recognize. Noah, let's build something that matters. V. He was reading through the proposal, trying to absorb information about budgets and program structures when someone knocked on the glass wall. Noah looked up to see a man in his 40s, expensive suit, expression somewhere between curious and skeptical. You're Bennett? That's me. David Reeves, VP of Corporate Development. The man didn't offer to shake hands. Interesting hire. Mup. Thanks, I think? Wasn't a compliment. Reeves leaned against the doorframe. Casual, but somehow aggressive. I've worked for Victoria for 8 years. Helped her build most of the corporate structure we have now. So I'm trying to understand why she's creating a foundation and putting a warehouse worker in charge, instead of someone with actual nonprofit experience. Noah felt heat rise in his face. Maybe because she wants someone who actually understands the people the foundation is meant to help. Or maybe because she feels guilty about your sob story and is making decisions based on emotion instead of logic. Reeves smiled, and it wasn't friendly. Fair warning, Bennett. Victoria's brilliant, but she has blind spots. One of them is thinking she can fix broken things by throwing money at them. You're the latest project. I'm not a project. Sure you are. We all are, in some way. Reeves straightened up. Just don't expect special treatment to last. Eventually, she'll realize this foundation is a vanity project that doesn't generate revenue, and you'll be back to whatever you were doing before. He walked away before Noah could respond, leaving behind a sour taste and a lot of doubt. Don't listen to David. Noah turned to find Victoria standing in the doorway, her expression dark. He's protective of the company and suspicious of anything that doesn't fit his spreadsheet worldview. She came into the office and closed the door behind her. I'm sorry. I should have warned you that not everyone here is going to be supportive. He called the foundation a vanity project. He's wrong, but he's not entirely unjustified in his skepticism. Victoria sat down in one of the office chairs. Most corporate foundations are vanity projects, tax write-offs that look good in press releases but don't actually accomplish much. I need you to help me make sure this isn't that. Noah sat down across from her. How do we do that? By being honest, by listening to the people we're trying to help instead of assuming we know what they need, by measuring real impact instead of just how much money we spend. Victoria leaned forward, and by accepting that we're going to make mistakes and learning from them instead of pretending we're perfect. I can do that. Good. Victoria smiled, and it was genuine. Now let's talk about what this foundation is actually going to do. They spent the next 3 hours going through everything. Target communities, program ideas, potential partnerships with existing nonprofits, funding structures. Victoria had clearly been thinking about this for a while, but she wanted Noah's input on everything. What would have helped you? She kept asking. When you were struggling, she kept yelling. What would have made a difference? Noah thought about late nights worrying about rent, about skipping meals so Emma could eat, about the grinding exhaustion of working yourself to the bone and still falling behind. Stability, he said finally. Not charity, but actual stability. Help finding better jobs instead of just surviving in bad ones. Childcare that doesn't cost more than you make. Housing assistance that's designed for working families, instead of assuming everyone who needs help is unemployed. Okay, so direct services, job placement, childcare subsidies, housing support. What else? Legal help. A lot of people get screwed by landlords or employers because they can't afford lawyers. And healthcare. One medical emergency can destroy a family's finances. Victoria was taking notes on her tablet, nodding. This is good. This is exactly the kind of thinking we need. They worked through lunch, which Claire brought in without being asked. Sandwiches and coffee that was significantly better than anything Noah had made at home. Around 2 o'clock, Victoria's phone buzzed. She glanced at it and made a face. I have to take this. Board meeting prep. But Noah? She paused at the door. You're doing great. Don't let people like David make you doubt that. After she left, Noah sat in his new office looking at the notes they'd made and felt something unfamiliar. Hope, maybe. Or purpose. The sense that he might actually be able to do something meaningful instead of just surviving day to day. The feeling lasted until he checked his phone and saw 17 missed calls from a number he didn't recognize. Noah called the number back and a woman answered on the first ring. Mr. Bennett? Yes? This is Jennifer Holbrook from Metro News. I'm calling about your relationship with Victoria Sinclair. Can you confirm that you're now working for her foundation? Noah's stomach dropped. How did you get this number? Public record. Mr. Bennett, is it true you met Ms. Sinclair when you rescued her from a stranded vehicle? What can you tell us about... Noah hung up. His phone immediately started buzzing again. Different number. He declined the call. Another call. Another decline. Then a text from a number he did recognize. Emma's school. Mr. Bennett, please call the office when you have a moment. Nothing urgent, but we need to discuss a situation. Noah's hands were shaking when he dialed the school. The secretary picked up immediately. Mr. Bennett, thank you for calling back. Emma's fine, but we had a situation today during lunch. A woman approached the playground fence and attempted to speak with Emma. One of our teachers intervened and the woman left, but she claimed to be a reporter and said she was looking for information about you. The hope Noah had been feeling evaporated instantly, replaced by cold rage. Someone tried to talk to my daughter? She didn't make contact. Our protocols worked, but I wanted you to be aware. The secretary's voice was kind but professional. We've increased supervision and alerted all staff, but you might want to speak with Emma tonight. She was a bit shaken. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Noah grabbed his jacket and was halfway to the elevator when Victoria appeared. Noah, what's wrong? Reporters. Someone tried to talk to Emma at school. His voice was tight. This is exactly what you warned me about, and it's been one day. One day, and they're already going after my daughter. Victoria's expression hardened. Claire. Her assistant appeared instantly. I need you to call our legal team, now, and get me the contact information for Metro News' editor. Victoria turned back to Noah. Go get Emma. Bring her here. I'll handle the reporters. Victoria, I can't. Yes, you can. Emma can wait in one of the conference rooms. There's a TV, comfortable chairs, privacy. She'll be safer here than at school right now. Victoria was already texting on her phone. And Noah? I'm sorry. I should have anticipated this and put protections in place before you started. It's not your fault. It's absolutely my fault. I know how these people operate, and I should have been proactive. She looked up from her phone. But we're going to fix this, I promise. Noah wanted to argue, wanted to say that fixing things wasn't that simple, but Emma was more important than his pride. Thank you, he said, and meant it. The drive to Emma's school felt like it took forever. Noah's mind raced with worst-case scenarios, each more terrifying than the last. Emma was waiting in the principal's office when he arrived, looking small and confused and not quite scared but definitely unsettled. Dad! She ran to him, and Noah scooped her up even though she was really too big for that now. You okay, sweetheart? Some lady wanted to ask me questions through the fence. Mrs. Patterson made her leave. Emma's voice was muffled against his shoulder. She said she wanted to know about you and the rich lady you're working for. I know. It's okay. You didn't do anything wrong. But why would reporters want to talk to me? Noah didn't have a good answer for that. Because people are invasive and awful? Because the news cycle runs on drama and everyone's personal life is potential content? Because grown-ups sometimes don't respect boundaries, he said finally, but we're going to make sure you're safe. He signed Emma out of school and drove her back to the office building downtown. She was quiet in the passenger seat, processing, and Noah wished he could protect her from all of this. Victoria was waiting in the lobby when they arrived. She'd changed from her business clothes into jeans and a sweater, looking less like a CEO and more like a regular person. She crouched down to Emma's eye level. Hi, Emma. I'm Victoria. Your dad's told me a lot about you. Emma looked at Noah, then back at Victoria. You're the pregnant lady he saved. That's right. He said you're really rich and kind of famous. Victoria laughed, and it was genuine. Also true, but right now I'm mostly just someone who needs to apologize to you. Why? Because some reporters tried to bother you today, and that happened because of me. Because I hired your dad, and some people are too nosy for their own good. Victoria's expression was serious. I promise we're going to fix this. But in the meantime, I have a conference room upstairs with a TV and all the snacks you can eat. Sound okay? Emma considered this. What kind of snacks? What kind do you like? Gummy bears and goldfish crackers and those little cheese sticks. I'll make sure we have all of those. Victoria stood up and held out her hand. Deal? Emma shook it solemnly. Deal. Claire appeared with a smile and led Emma to the elevator, already chatting about what movies were available to watch. Once they were alone, Victoria turned to Noah. I spoke with Metro News' editor, made it very clear that sending reporters to harass an 8-year-old at school crosses every ethical line. They've agreed to pull back. Will they actually? They will if they want to maintain any access to Sinclair Global for future stories. I've also had our legal team draft a cease and desist for any other outlets that try similar tactics. Victoria's voice was steel. Emma is completely off limits. That's non-negotiable. Thank you. Don't thank me. I'm the reason this is happening. She ran a hand through her hair, looking tired. I knew there'd be media interest. I should have prepared for this better. Noah wanted to tell her it wasn't her fault, that she couldn't control what reporters did. But he was too angry and scared to be generous right now. How do we make sure this doesn't happen again? We establish clear boundaries publicly. I'll release a statement saying you're working for the foundation in a professional capacity. Our personal lives are private, and my legal team will pursue harassment charges against anyone who approaches Emma. Victoria met his eyes. And you tell me right now if this is too much, if you want to walk away before things get more complicated. Noah thought about Emma in that conference room, about the reporter at her school fence, about David Reeves's condescending smile. Then he thought about the proposal they'd worked on this morning, about families they could help, about building something that actually mattered. I'm not walking away, he said, but we need better boundaries, for both our sakes. Agreed. Victoria pulled out her phone. Let's go talk to Emma and figure out how to make this work. They spent the rest of the afternoon in the conference room with Emma, who was surprisingly adaptable once she understood what was happening. Victoria explained things in simple terms, that some people were interested in her life, that it might be annoying, but they'd deal with it together, that Emma should tell an adult immediately if anyone strange tried to talk to her. Like stranger danger, but for reporters, Emma said. Exactly like that. By 6 o'clock, Emma was curled up on the conference room couch, watching a movie and eating her third cheese stick, seemingly unbothered by the day's drama. Victoria walked Noah to a quiet corner. How are you holding up? Been better, Noah admitted. But we'll survive. I know you will. You're tougher than you think. Victoria glanced at Emma. She's great, by the way. Smart, funny, handles stress better than most adults. Gets that from her mom. That's satans. I doubt that's entirely true. Victoria smiled. Go home. Get some rest. Tomorrow, we'll start fresh with better security protocols. Noah collected Emma, thanked Victoria again, and drove home through evening traffic. Emma was quiet until they were almost at their apartment. Dad? Yeah? Is this what our life is going to be like now? All weird and complicated? Noah wished he could promise her it wouldn't be. Maybe for a while, but we'll figure it out. We always do. Victoria seems nice. She is nice. And she's having a baby all by herself, like how you had me by yourself after Mom died. Yeah, sweetheart, kind of like that. Emma was quiet for another moment. Maybe we could help her, with the baby stuff, since we know about being alone. Noah felt his throat get tight. His daughter, 8 years old, already thinking about how to help someone else instead of just worrying about herself. Maybe we could, he agreed. They ordered Chinese takeout for dinner because Noah was too exhausted to cook. Emma did her homework at the kitchen table while Noah answered emails from Claire about security protocols and media relations. Around 8:30, his phone buzzed with a text from Victoria. Emma okay? Noah smiled and typed back. She's fine. Tougher than both of us combined. Glad to hear it. Sleep well, Noah. Tomorrow we change some lives. Yeah. Noah looked around their small apartment, at Emma bent over her math homework with her tongue sticking out slightly in concentration, at the life they'd built together from broken pieces. Tomorrow they'd start building something bigger. He just hoped they were ready for it. The Foundation's official launch was scheduled for 6 weeks out, which gave Noah just enough time to realize how completely unprepared he was for any of this. The learning curve wasn't steep, it was vertical. Every day brought new challenges that made him feel like a kid pretending to be an adult. Grant applications, donor relations, program development, media training that mostly consisted of a very patient PR consultant named Marcus telling Noah to stop saying every third word. You're overthinking it, Marcus said during their 5th session. Just be yourself. People connect with authenticity. People connect with people who sound like they know what they're doing, Noah countered. You do know what you're doing. You just don't sound corporate enough, which is actually your strength. Marcus leaned back in his chair. Victoria didn't hire you to be another suit. She hired you because you've lived what these families are living. Stop trying to sound like everyone else. Noah wanted to believe that, but every meeting with Victoria's executive team made him feel like an imposter who'd somehow conned his way into a world he didn't belong in. David Reeves, in particular, seemed to take personal pleasure in pointing out everything Noah didn't know. The ROI on direct assistance programs is notoriously difficult to quantify, Reeves said during one budget meeting, looking directly at Noah. How exactly do you plan to demonstrate value to potential donors? Noah had learned enough by then to push back. By measuring what actually matters. How many families stabilized their housing? How many kids stayed in the same school for a full year? How many parents got jobs that paid living wages instead of poverty wages? Those are outputs, not outcomes. Those are lives changed. If that's not an outcome worth measuring, I don't know what is. Victoria, sitting at the head of the conference table, smiled slightly. I think Noah's right. We're not optimizing for shareholder returns here, David. Different mission, different metrics. Reeves didn't look convinced, but he shut up. Small victories. The real work happened in the afternoons when Noah visited neighborhoods he recognized. Not from living there, but from driving through them on his way to warehouse shifts. Strip malls with half-empty storefronts. Apartment complexes with peeling paint. Bus stops where people waited in the cold because they couldn't afford cars. Victoria insisted on coming with him, despite Claire's increasingly frantic concerns about security and scheduling conflicts. I need to see it, Victoria said when Claire tried to redirect her to a board meeting. I need to understand what we're actually trying to fix. They went to community centers and food banks, talked to caseworkers and families, listened to stories that Noah knew by heart because he'd lived versions of them himself. Single mothers working 3 jobs who still couldn't make rent. Fathers choosing between car repairs and their kids' field trip fee. Families one medical emergency away from homelessness. Victoria listened to all of it without flinching, taking notes on her tablet, asking questions that proved she was actually paying attention and not just performing concern for the cameras. After one particularly brutal meeting with a woman whose husband had died, leaving her with 3 kids and medical debt she'd never pay off, Victoria sat in the car for a long moment before speaking. How did you do it? She asked quietly. After Sarah died, how did you keep going? Noah thought about those first terrible months, the nights when Emma cried for her mother, and Noah had nothing to offer except his own inadequate presence. I didn't have a choice. Emma needed me to keep going, so I did. He glanced at Victoria, saw the worry in her expression, and understood. You're scared. Terrified, she admitted. I've built companies, managed thousands of employees, negotiated billion-dollar deals. But this, she touched her belly. I have no idea what I'm doing. Nobody does. That's the secret they don't tell you. Every parent is just making it up as they go and hoping they don't screw up too badly. That's not reassuring. It's not meant to be. It's meant to be honest. Noah shifted in his seat to face her. You'll figure it out, and when you don't, you'll ask for help. That's all any of us can do. Victoria was quiet for a moment. I don't know how to ask for help. I've spent my entire adult life proving I don't need anyone. Yeah, well, kids have a way of destroying that illusion pretty quickly. She laughed, sharp and a little broken. I'm not ready. You will be. And if you're not, you'll fake it until Emma and I teach you the ropes. Victoria looked at him, surprise crossing her face. You do that? Of course. We're building a foundation together. Might as well help you survive parenthood while we're at it. Noah smiled. Besides, Emma's already planning how to be the best big sister ever to a baby she's never met. Good luck stopping her. That got a real smile from Victoria, warm and grateful. That got a real smile from... They drove back to the office in more comfortable silence, and Noah thought maybe they were becoming something like friends. An unlikely friendship built on shared loneliness and the strange way their lives had collided, but real nonetheless. Emma had taken to the new routine with surprising ease. Mrs. Chen picked her up from school most days and brought her to the office around 4, where she'd set up camp in Noah's office doing homework while he finished meetings. The staff had collectively adopted her. Claire kept a drawer of snacks specifically for Emma's visits. Marcus taught her card tricks between PR sessions, and even David Reeves had thawed slightly after Emma announced his tie was very boring but in a professional way. Is that a compliment? Reeves had asked. I think so, Emma replied seriously. Dad says being professional is important. Victoria spent more time in Noah's office than her own, claiming she needed his input on program details, but mostly just seeming to enjoy the chaos Emma brought. She'd sit in one of his chairs reviewing documents while Emma chattered about school or showed off her latest drawing. You're good with her, Noah said one evening after Emma had fallen asleep on his office couch, worn out from a long day. Victoria looked up from her tablet. She makes it easy. She's not afraid of me. Why would she be afraid of you? Most people are. Not obviously, but there's always this distance, like they're talking to the CEO instead of a person. Victoria set the tablet aside. Emma just treats me like Victoria. It's refreshing. That's because she's 8 and hasn't learned to be intimidated by money yet. I hope she never does. Noah studied Victoria's face in the soft office lighting and saw exhaustion underneath the polish. When's the last time you took a day off? I don't remember. That's not healthy, says the man who's been working 60-hour weeks for the past month. That's different. I'm new. I'm trying to prove I belong here. Noah? Victoria's voice was gentle but firm. You do belong here. You've done more in 6 weeks than some people accomplish in years. The outreach you've built, the partnerships you've formed, the family's already on our assistance list. It's remarkable. It's not enough. It's never enough. There will always be more people who need help than we can reach. That's why we have to pace ourselves instead of burning out before we even launch. She paused. Claire's been nagging me to take a weekend off. Maybe we both should. Noah thought about his empty apartment and the stack of files he'd planned to review over the weekend. I don't know how to not work anymore. Me either. Maybe that's something we need to learn. Before Noah could respond, Emma stirred on the couch, blinking sleepily. Dad? Is it time to go home? Yeah, sweetheart. Let's get you to bed. Victoria helped Noah gather Emma's scattered homework papers while Emma rubbed her eyes and tried to remember where she'd left her backpack. Come over for dinner tomorrow, Victoria said suddenly. Both of you. My place. Nothing fancy, just... She hesitated. I'd like the company, and Noah saw something vulnerable in her expression and understood. Victoria Sinclair, Billionaire CEO, was lonely. We'd love to, he said. Emma perked up immediately, exhaustion forgotten. Does your house have a pool? It does, actually. Can I swim? If your dad says it's okay. Dad, please. Noah looked at his daughter's hopeful face and Victoria's soft smile and thought about how much their lives had changed in 6 weeks. Sure, Em. We'll swim. The weekend at Victoria's estate was surreal in ways Noah was still processing days later. Emma had spent most of Saturday in the pool while Noah and Victoria sat on the patio talking about everything except work. Victoria's childhood growing up wealthy but emotionally isolated. Noah's life with Sarah before cancer took her. The ways they'd both learned to survive by pretending they were stronger than they felt. On Sunday morning, Victoria had made breakfast, or tried to anyway. She'd burned the pancakes twice before Noah gently took over while she sat at the kitchen island looking embarrassed. I never learned to cook, she admitted. We had staff for that growing up, and as an adult I've mostly lived on takeout and whatever Claire orders for me. You're about to have a baby. You need to learn at least basic survival cooking. Is that an offer to teach me? Noah flipped a pancake, golden and perfect. I guess it is. Emma had declared the weekend the best ever and spent the drive home planning their next visit. Noah let her chatter while his mind wandered to the strange intimacy of teaching Victoria how to cook eggs, the way she'd laughed when she nearly set off the smoke alarm, the moment their hands had brushed reaching for the same spatula. He shut down that line of thinking immediately. Victoria was his boss, his friend, a woman about to have another man's baby. Whatever attraction he might be developing was inappropriate and needed to stay locked away. The launch event was scheduled for a Thursday evening in mid-November, and Noah spent the week before feeling like he might throw up. "You're going to be fine," Marcus insisted during their final prep session. "Just remember what we practiced. Make eye contact, speak slowly, and for the love of everything, stop apologizing before you even start talking. I don't do that. You do. You said sorry 3 times in the first 5 minutes of this meeting." Noah hadn't even noticed. "It's a reflex. It's undermining your credibility. You have nothing to apologize for. You've built something remarkable. Own it." The event itself was held at a hotel ballroom downtown, filled with people in expensive clothes who'd paid $500 a plate to hear about the foundation. Noah wore a suit Victoria had insisted on buying him, felt like a fraud, and tried not to panic when he saw the crowd. "Breathe," Victoria murmured beside him. "They're here because they believe in this. You just need to remind them why." The evening was a blur of handshakes and small talk, and Noah forcing himself to sound confident when he felt anything but. He met donors and local politicians and nonprofit leaders who all seemed to think he was much more impressive than he actually was. Then came the speeches. Victoria went first, polished and professional, talking about her vision for the foundation and why it mattered. She was good at this, commanding the room's attention effortlessly. Then it was Noah's turn. He stood at the podium looking at a sea of faces and felt every inadequacy he'd ever had rise up to choke him. These people didn't want to hear from a former warehouse supervisor who barely graduated high school. They wanted someone polished and educated who spoke their language. But then Noah saw Emma in the front row, sitting next to Mrs. Chen. His daughter gave him a thumbs up and mouthed, "You got this," and something settled in Noah's chest. And screw sounding polished. Marcus was right. He just needed to be honest. "I'm not going to stand here and give you statistics about poverty or wage inequality," Noah started. "There are people much smarter than me who can explain the systemic problems we're trying to address. Instead, I'm going to tell you what it's like to choose between paying rent and buying your kids medicine." He told them about the night Sarah died, about being 28 years old, and suddenly a single father with a 4-year-old and medical bills that would take years to pay off, about working double shifts while Emma stayed with neighbors because he couldn't afford childcare, about the grinding exhaustion of doing everything right and still falling behind. "I'm not special," Noah said, looking out at the crowd. "I'm just like millions of other people in this country working their tails off and barely surviving. The difference is, I got lucky. Victoria Sinclair gave me an opportunity that most people never get. This foundation exists to be that opportunity for families who need it." He talked about the programs they were launching, the families already receiving assistance, the partners who'd committed to helping. "We can't fix poverty overnight," Noah concluded, "but we can make sure that when someone works 40 hours a week, they can afford housing and food and healthcare. We can make sure kids don't go hungry because their parents are choosing between groceries and electricity. We can treat working families with the dignity they deserve instead of acting like poverty is a moral failing." He stepped away from the podium to applause that sounded genuine, and Victoria caught his eye from the side of the stage. She was smiling, and there was something in her expression that made Noah's chest tight. The rest of the evening passed in a haze. People kept approaching Noah with praise and business cards and pledges of support. By the time the event ended, the foundation had raised $800,000, and Noah felt like he'd run a marathon. "You were incredible," Victoria said as they stood in the emptying ballroom. Emma had fallen asleep in a chair, exhausted from the excitement. "I just told the truth." "Exactly. That's what made it incredible." Victoria touched his arm briefly. "Thank you, Noah, for all of this. for believing in this when it was just an idea. Thank you for giving me the chance. They stood there for a moment, the space between them feeling charged with something Noah didn't want to name. Then Emma stirred, and the moment broke. Noah carried his daughter to the car while Victoria dealt with final donor conversations. On the drive home, he thought about everything that had changed in 3 months and everything that still scared him about the future. The next morning, Noah woke to his phone exploding with notifications. Videos from the launch event had gone viral overnight, specifically Noah's speech. Someone had recorded it and posted it online, and apparently people were sharing it everywhere. Single dad tells billionaires what poverty actually looks like, read one headline. Foundation director's emotional speech about struggling families goes viral, read another. Noah scrolled through comments, most of them positive, some calling him a hero, others praising Victoria for hiring someone with real experience instead of another corporate figurehead. But there were negative comments too. People claiming he was exploiting his dead wife for sympathy, others saying he'd clearly manipulated Victoria into giving him a job. A few suggesting his relationship with Victoria was more than professional and attacking both of them for it. Noah's stomach turned. He'd known there would be criticism, but seeing it spelled out in angry internet comments was different from anticipating it abstractly. His phone rang. Victoria. Have you seen the news? I'm looking at it now. Ignore the negative comments. They're a vocal minority. Victoria's voice was firm. The speech was powerful, Noah. The foundation has received over $50,000 in online donations since last night. The website crashed twice from traffic. This is good. It doesn't feel good. I know, but we knew there would be backlash. People are always suspicious when someone from outside their world succeeds. She paused. Are you okay? Okay. Noah thought about lying, then remembered Victoria valued honesty. No, but I will be. Do you want to take the day off? Claire can handle any media requests. No. If I hide now, it'll just make things worse. Noah took a breath. I'm coming in. We have work to do. Okay, but Noah, don't read the comments. Trust me on this. He didn't listen to her advice. By the time he got to the office, Noah had read dozens of comments, each one making him feel worse. The ones about Sarah were the hardest, strangers dissecting his grief, questioning whether he'd really loved her or was just using her memory for sympathy. Emma had questions at breakfast about why people were talking about Dad online, and Noah had fumbled through an explanation about how sometimes when you try to help people, others get upset about it. That's dumb, Emma announced. You're helping people. That's good. Not everyone sees it that way, sweetheart. Then they're dumb. Noah wished he had an 8-year-old's certainty that the world was that simple. The office felt different when he arrived. People stared more openly, whispered as he passed. Some offered congratulations, others just watched with expressions Noah couldn't read. David Reeves was waiting by Noah's office. Quite the performance last night. It wasn't a performance, wasn't it? The tragic widower story, the struggle, the emotional appeal. Reeves leaned against the doorframe. You played that room perfectly, very manipulative. Noah felt rage flash hot and sudden. My wife died. My daughter and I struggled. Those are facts, not manipulation. And now you're using those facts to build a career. Convenient. I'm using my experience to help people in similar situations. There's a difference. Is there? Reeves smiled coldly. Be honest, Bennett. If Victoria hadn't offered you this job, where would you be right now? Back in a warehouse somewhere, living paycheck to paycheck. You saw an opportunity and you took it. Can't blame you for that, but don't pretend it's purely altruistic. Get out of my office. This isn't your office. It's Victoria's office in Victoria's building, funded by Victoria's money. You're just the face she put on her pet project. Reeves straightened up. Enjoy it while it lasts. Eventually she'll get bored or pregnant brain fog will clear, and she'll realize what a mistake this was. He walked away before Noah could respond. He walked, leaving behind words that burrowed under Noah's skin like splinters. Noah sat at his desk trying to focus on work, and failing. Every email felt impossible, every task overwhelming. The voice in his head that sounded disturbingly like Reeves kept whispering that he didn't belong here, that he'd fooled Victoria somehow, that eventually everyone would see through him. Victoria found him an hour later, staring at his computer without actually seeing anything on the screen. Noah? My days. He looked up. Victoria stood in his doorway, hand resting on her belly, concern clear in her expression. What happened? Nothing. Just a lot of emails. Don't lie to me. You look like someone kicked you. She came into the office and closed the door. Talk. Noah wanted to deflect, but Victoria was looking at him with such genuine worry that the words spilled out. What Reeves had said, the internet comments, the feeling that he was in over his head and everyone could see it. Victoria listened without interrupting. When he finished, she was quiet for a moment. David is threatened by you, she said finally. He's VP of Corporate Development. I'm running a nonprofit with a budget that's a rounding error in his world. How am I threatening? Because you have something he doesn't. Authenticity. Connection with people outside our bubble. The ability to make others care about something beyond profit margins. Victoria sat down across from him. David's brilliant at business strategy, but he's terrible at human connection. He knows it, and he resents anyone who has what he lacks. But that doesn't make what he said wrong, doesn't it? Noah, you didn't manipulate me into anything. I offered you this job because you were qualified, not because I felt sorry for you. Her voice was firm. Yes, your experience with loss and struggle is part of why you're good at this work. But so is your intelligence, your empathy, your ability to connect with people. You didn't get here by accident or sympathy. You earned it. Sometimes it doesn't feel that way. I know. I spent the first 5 years as CEO feeling like everyone was waiting for me to fail. Imposter syndrome doesn't care about your actual qualifications. Victoria leaned forward. But here's what I learned. The people who belong somewhere don't always feel like they belong. The ones who feel entitled to their position, they're usually the least qualified. Noah wanted to believe her. What if he's right, though? What if I'm just the tragic story you're using to make your foundation look authentic? Then fire me. Noah blinked. What? If you genuinely believe I'm using you, exploiting your story, treating you as a prop instead of a partner, quit. Walk away. Find another job where you feel respected. Victoria's expression was serious. But don't stay here if you think I see you as anything less than essential to this mission. I don't want to quit. Then stop listening to David Reeves and start trusting that maybe, just maybe, you deserve this opportunity. She stood up. I need you, Noah. Not as a symbol or a story, but as the person running this foundation. No one else can do what you're doing. Please believe that. After Victoria left, Noah sat with her words for a long time. Then he opened his email and started working again, pushing through the doubt like he'd pushed through every other hard thing in his life. The weeks after the launch were chaotic in ways Noah hadn't anticipated. The viral speech meant increased scrutiny, more media requests, and a flood of families reaching out for help. The foundation's small staff was overwhelmed trying to keep up with applications and donations and public interest. Noah hired more people, carefully, with Victoria's approval, including a case manager named Patricia who'd spent 20 years in social services, and knew how to navigate systems that seemed designed to make helping people as difficult as possible. Bureaucracy is my love language, Patricia announced during her first week. Show me a complicated application process and I'll find the loopholes. She was exactly what they needed. Emma's 9th birthday came and went with a party at Victoria's house that was far bigger than anything Noah had planned. Emma didn't seem to mind the excess. She was too busy showing her friends the pool and the game room and the elaborate cake Victoria had insisted on ordering. This is too much, Noah told Victoria as they watched a dozen 9-year-olds run screaming through the garden. It's a birthday party. Let me spoil her a little. A little? There's a bounce house. Every kid should have a bounce house at their birthday. I can't compete with this next year. Victoria bumped his shoulder with hers. You're not competing. You're Emma's dad. I'm just the person with too much money and no idea how to spend it meaningfully. You're spending it meaningfully. The foundation, is work. This is different. Victoria watched Emma laughing with her friends, and something softened in her expression. I never had birthday parties like this growing up. Everything was formal and adult. I want Emma to have what I didn't. Noah understood then that this wasn't about Emma, or not entirely. It was about Victoria trying to figure out how to be the parent she'd never had, practicing on someone else's kid before her own arrived. She loves you, you know, Noah said quietly. Emma, she's been making you baby gifts for weeks. Won't show me what they are, but I know she's planning something. Victoria's eyes got bright, and she blinked quickly. She doesn't have to do that. I know, she wants to. They stood together watching the party chaos, and Noah felt that dangerous warmth in his chest again. The feeling that this, Victoria, Emma, this strange life they were building, might be something more than professional partnership and friendship. He pushed the feeling down. Victoria was 7 months pregnant with another man's baby. She was his boss. Getting emotionally tangled up with her would be a disaster for everyone involved. But then Victoria reached out and took his hand, threading their fingers together like it was the most natural thing in the world, and Noah's carefully constructed boundaries felt fragile as paper. Thank you, Victoria said softly, for letting me be part of this, part of Emma's life. You don't have to thank me. I do, though. You didn't have to include me. I'm just your boss who hired you a few months ago. You're not just anything. Noah squeezed her hand. You're family now, both of you. Victoria looked at him, and something passed between them that felt significant and terrifying and inevitable. Then Emma appeared, soaking wet from the pool and demanding they come see the trick she'd learned from Jordan. The moment broke, but the feeling lingered. That night, after Emma had fallen asleep surrounded by birthday presents, Noah's phone buzzed with a text from Victoria. Thank you for today. I haven't been that happy in a long time. Noah stared at the message for a full minute before typing back, Me either. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. This is complicated, isn't it? Noah's fingers hovered over the keyboard. He could deflect, pretend he didn't know what she meant, or he could be honest. Yeah, it is. I don't know what to do about that. Me either. More dots. Then, maybe we don't do anything. Just let it be complicated. Is that wise? Probably not, but I'm tired of being wise. Wisdom is overrated. Noah smiled despite himself. Is this the pregnancy hormones talking? Maybe. Or maybe it's just me being honest for once. A pause. Good night, Noah. Good night, Victoria. Noah set his phone down and sat in the dark kitchen of his apartment, thinking about complications and wisdom and the way Victoria's hand had felt in his. This was going to end badly. He could feel it. But for the first time in 4 years, Noah felt something other than numb exhaustion when he thought about the future. He felt anticipation, possibility, the dangerous hope that maybe life could be more than just surviving, even if that hope was probably going to break his heart. The scandal broke 3 days before Christmas. Noah was at the office late, trying to finish grant applications before the holiday break, when Claire appeared in his doorway looking pale. Noah, Victoria needs you in her office. Now. The tone made his stomach drop. He followed Claire down the hall and found Victoria at her desk with her laptop open and her phone pressed to her ear. I don't care what the optics are, she was saying, voice ice. We're not releasing a statement that throws him under the bus to protect my reputation. She hung up and looked at Noah. Sit down. Noah sat. What happened? Victoria turned her laptop toward him. The headline read, Sinclair Foundation Director's Secret Past, Criminal Record, and Business Failures. Noah's blood went cold. The article detailed every mistake he'd ever made. The DUI when he was 19, stupid and drunk after a bad breakup. The failed attempt to start a moving company with Sarah that had lasted 6 months before bankruptcy. The credit card debt that had taken years to pay off. The times he'd been late on rent, the shut-off notices, the small claims court appearance when a landlord had kept their security deposit illegally. Everything laid out like evidence of moral failure, instead of what it actually was. A young man struggling to survive and making the kinds of mistakes most people made but could afford to recover from. How did they get all this? Public records mostly. Someone did a deep dive specifically looking for dirt. Victoria's jaw was tight. My PR team wants me to distance the foundation from you. Say you were hired based on incomplete information and were reviewing your position. Noah felt numb. Maybe you should. Like hell, you were 19 when you got that DUI. The business failed because Sarah got sick and you couldn't keep working. The debt was medical bills. None of this is scandalous. It's just life. Your PR team thinks differently. My PR team cares about perception over truth. I'm not throwing you to the wolves because you made mistakes a decade ago. Victoria stood up, came around the desk. We're going to fight this. Together. Victoria, you're 8 months pregnant. You don't need this stress. What I don't need is to let people destroy someone good because they're scared of what the foundation represents. She took his hands. We're in this together, remember? I'm not abandoning you. Noah wanted to argue, to insist she protect herself and the foundation, even if it meant sacrificing him. But looking at her fierce expression, he knew she wouldn't listen. Okay, he said quietly. Okay. What do? We tell the truth, all of it. No hiding, no spin, just honesty. Victoria squeezed his hands. And we trust that most people are decent enough to understand that past mistakes don't define someone's present worth. They worked through the night drafting a response. By dawn, they had a statement ready and a plan for a press conference. Noah called Emma's school and explained she might hear things, might have kids or teachers ask questions. The principal promised to monitor the situation and protect Emma from any harassment. The press conference was brutal. Reporters shouted questions about Noah's past, his qualifications, whether he'd deceived Victoria. Noah answered everything honestly. Yes, he had a DUI from when he was 19. Yes, he'd declared bankruptcy after his wife got cancer. Yes, he'd struggled financially for years. I'm not proud of my mistakes, Noah said, looking directly into the cameras. But I'm not ashamed of my struggles either. Millions of Americans deal with the same things. Medical debt, business failures, one bad decision that follows them forever. That's exactly why this foundation exists. Because people deserve second chances and support instead of judgment. Victoria stood beside him, visibly pregnant and unmistakably protective. Noah Bennett is exactly the person I want running this foundation, she said when reporters directed questions at her. Not despite his past struggles, but because of them. He understands what it's like to need help and not be able to afford it. That lived experience is invaluable. The press conference ended, and Noah had no idea if they'd done enough. The answer came over the next 48 hours. The foundation received $20,000 in donations from people who identified with Noah's story. Social media exploded with support from others who'd made mistakes or struggled with debt or knew what it was like to be judged for their past. There was still plenty of criticism, but it was drowned out by an unexpected wave of solidarity. Looks like honesty worked, Victoria said, reading through messages in her office. This time, Noah countered, next scandal might not go so well. Then we'll deal with it. Victoria looked up from her tablet. Together. That word, together, kept coming up lately, carrying weight neither of them fully acknowledged. Christmas came quiet and strange. Emma wanted to spend it with Victoria, who'd admitted she usually spent holidays alone in her enormous house. That's sad, Emma declared. You should come to our place. We have traditions. Hey, their apartment was too small for company, so they compromised and spent Christmas Eve at Victoria's house. Noah made dinner while Emma decorated cookies and Victoria attempted to help without burning anything. It felt domestic in ways that made Noah's chest ache, like they were a family instead of whatever they actually were. Emma gave Victoria the gift she'd been working on, a handmade baby blanket she'd somehow knitted with Mrs. Chen's help. It was lumpy and imperfect, and Victoria cried looking at it. This is the most beautiful thing anyone's ever made me, she said, holding Emma tight. Mom taught me that the best gifts are the ones you make, Emma said seriously. Because they have love in them. Noah's eyes burned. Sarah would have loved this. Emma being kind and thoughtful, finding ways to include someone who needed family. Victoria's gift to Emma was a college savings account with $50,000 already deposited. You can't give her that much money, Noah protested. I can and I did. Emma's brilliant. She should be able to go to any school she wants without worrying about cost. Victoria looked at Noah steadily. Accept the gift. Let me do this. Noah wanted to argue on principle, but Emma was hugging Victoria and crying happy tears, and he couldn't bring himself to ruin that. Thank you, he said quietly. Really? Thank you. They watched Christmas movies after dinner, Emma eventually falling asleep between them on the couch. Victoria's head drooped onto Noah's shoulder, exhausted from pregnancy and stress. Noah sat very still, not wanting to disturb either of them, thinking about how his life had become something he never could have predicted. Around midnight, Victoria stirred. "Sorry," she mumbled. "Fell asleep." "It's fine." She didn't move away, and neither did Noah. They sat there in the quiet house with Emma sleeping between them, and it felt like something inevitable was happening whether they were ready for it or not. "Noah?" "Yeah? You all... I'm glad you stopped that night. In the storm. I'm glad it was you." "Me too." Victoria lifted her head to look at him, and her expression was so open, so vulnerable, that Noah's breath caught. "This is probably a terrible idea," she whispered. "Probably," Noah agreed. But when Victoria leaned in, he didn't stop her. The kiss was soft, tentative, tasting like hot chocolate and possibility. When they pulled apart, Victoria was smiling. Definitely a terrible idea. "The worst," Noah confirmed. Emma shifted in her sleep, and reality crashed back in. They were her boss and employee, a pregnant woman and a single father. Two people whose lives were already complicated enough without adding this. "We should talk about this," Victoria said. "Yeah, we should. But maybe not tonight." "Tomorrow," Noah agreed. "We'll figure it out tomorrow." Tomorrow came with its own crisis. Victoria's water breaking 6 weeks early, and Noah racing her to the hospital at 3 in the morning while Emma stayed with Mrs. Chen and Claire coordinated everything by phone. The baby arrived 12 hours later, tiny and screaming and perfect. Victoria held her son with tears streaming down her face, and when she looked at Noah standing beside the hospital bed, she said, "I want you here, for all of it, if you want that." Noah thought about wisdom and complications, and all the reasons this was a bad idea. Then he thought about the life he'd been living before, safe, lonely, just surviving instead of actually living. "I want that," he said, and meant it with everything he had. Whatever came next, they'd face it together. The first 3 weeks were chaos wrapped in exhaustion, wrapped in something Noah couldn't quite name, but felt terrifyingly close to happiness. Victoria's son, Lucas James Sinclair, named after her grandfather and the nurse who'd delivered him, was tiny and loud and completely dependent. Noah had forgotten how overwhelming newborns were, how they demolished any concept of schedule or sleep or personal space. Victoria was a wreck. Not the polished CEO who commanded boardrooms, but a scared new mother who called Noah at 2 in the morning because Lucas wouldn't stop crying, and she was convinced something was wrong. "He's been screaming for an hour," Victoria said, and Noah could hear the tears in her voice. "I've tried everything, feeding, changing, holding him, putting him down. Nothing works." "Is he running a fever?" "No, I checked 3 times. "Then he's probably fine, just fussy. Some babies are like that." "What if he's not fine? What if I'm missing something?" Noah sat up in bed, wide awake now despite it being the middle of the night. "Do you want me to come over?" Victoria was quiet for a moment. "You don't have to do that." "I know. Do you want me to?" "Yes," she whispered. "Please." Noah left Emma sleeping with a note on her nightstand and drove to Victoria's estate in the dark. She answered the door in sweatpants and a t-shirt with spit up on the shoulder, her hair a mess, eyes red from crying. She looked nothing like a billionaire and everything like every other new parent Noah had ever seen. "I'm a terrible mother," Victoria said without preamble. "I can't even keep him calm for one night." "You're not a terrible mother. You're a tired mother of a 3-week-old. That's different." Noah came inside and heard Lucas's angry wails from upstairs. "Let me try something." Victoria followed him to the nursery where Lucas was red-faced and furious in his bassinet. Noah picked him up, settled the baby against his shoulder, and started walking in slow circles while making a low shushing sound. "That's what you've been doing," Victoria protested. "Yeah, but I've got the magic touch," Noah said lightly. "Years of practice." It took 15 minutes, but Lucas eventually quieted, his screams fading to hiccups and then to silence as he fell asleep against Noah's chest. Victoria stared at them with an expression Noah couldn't read. How did you do that? Si, Victorious. I didn't do anything special. He just wore himself out. Noah carefully transferred Lucas back to the bassinet. The baby stirred but didn't wake. Sometimes they just need to cry it out a little. Well, all the books say you're not supposed to let them cry. All the books were written by people who probably had nannies and full-time help. Real parents do what works. Noah looked at Victoria and saw she was shaking. When's the last time you slept? I don't know. Yesterday? Maybe the day before? Okay, you're going to bed. Now. I can't. What if he wakes up again? Then I'll handle it. I'm staying tonight. Well, Noah steered her toward the door. No arguments. You're running on fumes and you're going to make yourself sick. Victoria looked like she wanted to protest, but exhaustion won. Victoria looked like she let Noah guide her to her bedroom and she was asleep within minutes of lying down. Noah spent the rest of the night in the nursery, dozing in the rocking chair between Lucas's wake-ups. The baby only needed one more feeding before dawn, and Noah managed it with the bottles Victoria had prepared. When Victoria woke around 8, she found Noah and Lucas in the kitchen. Noah was making coffee one-handed while holding the baby against his shoulder. You stayed all night. Told you I would. Boom. Victoria's eyes filled with tears. I don't know how to do this. Everyone thinks I'm so capable, so in control, but I can't even handle one tiny baby without falling apart. Noah handed her a mug of coffee. Welcome to parenthood. It kicks everyone's ass equally, regardless of bank account. You made it look easy with Emma. I promise you it wasn't. I cried in the bathroom at least once a week for the first 6 months after Sarah died. Emma had colic, and I had no idea what I was doing. Noah adjusted Lucas in his arms. The difference is, I didn't have anyone watching or judging. You've got photographers trying to get pictures through your fence, and employees who think you should be handling everything perfectly. I hate it. I know, but you're not alone this time. You've got help. You've got me. Victoria looked at him over the rim of her coffee mug. Why are you doing this? Because I care about you. Both of you. Noah. I know we haven't talked about what happened at Christmas. I know this is complicated, but right now that doesn't matter. What matters is you need help and I'm offering it. Noah met her eyes steadily. No strings attached, no expectations. Just one parent helping another. Victoria set down her coffee and crossed the kitchen. She took Lucas from Noah's arms, cradling her son close, then leaned in and kissed Noah softly. Thank you, she whispered against his lips. Noah wanted to say something meaningful, but Lucas chose that moment to spit up all over Victoria's shoulder, and the moment dissolved into laughter and the practical chaos of cleaning up baby vomit. The pattern established itself over the following weeks. Noah would go to the office during the day while Victoria stayed home with Lucas. Then he'd come over after picking Emma up from school. Emma had instantly fallen in love with the baby, treating him like a living doll she was allowed to hold and help with. He's so tiny, Emma breathed, watching Lucas sleep in his bassinet. Was I this tiny? Even tinier, Noah said. You were 6 pounds, 2 ounces. Lucas is 6 pounds, 8. I was smaller than him? Emma looked delighted by this information. Mom said I was strong, though. She said I came out fighting. Noah's chest tightened. Sarah had said that in the delivery room, when the nurses placed Emma on her chest for the first time. She was right. You've always been a fighter. Emma was quiet for a moment, watching Lucas's tiny chest rise and fall. Do you think Mom would have liked Victoria? The question caught Noah off guard. What makes you ask that? Because you like her, I can tell. You get smiley when she texts you. Emma looked up at him seriously. And Victoria makes you happy. You're not as sad anymore. Noah hadn't realized he'd been transparent enough for a 9-year-old to notice. Yeah, sweetheart, I think your mom would have liked her. Good, because I like her too. And Lucas needs a big sister, even if I'm not his real sister. You can be whatever kind of sister you want to be. Emma nodded, satisfied with this answer, and went back to watching the baby sleep. Noah found Victoria in the kitchen making tea, looking more rested than she had in weeks. Emma wants to be Lucas's sister, Noah said. Victoria smiled. I heard. She told me yesterday that she's going to teach him everything important. Reading, swimming, how to make the perfect grilled cheese. She's very serious about grilled cheese technique, as she should be. Victoria's smile faded slightly. Noah, we need to talk about what this is, what we're doing. I know, because it's not just the two of us anymore. Emma's involved. Lucas is involved. If we're going to... She gestured helplessly. Whatever this is, we need to be sure. Noah leaned against the counter. Are you asking me what my intentions are? I'm asking if you're ready for what dating me actually means. The media attention, the scrutiny, the people who'll say you're with me for money or access. Victoria's voice was careful. I need to know you've thought about it. I've thought about nothing else for weeks. And it terrifies me, Noah admitted. The attention, the judgment, the chance that this could blow up and hurt Emma or Lucas. All of it scares the hell out of me. Victoria's face fell. So you don't want I'm not done. Noah moved closer. It terrifies me, but I want it anyway. I want you. I want this weird, complicated family we're building. I want Sunday mornings with spit up on my shirt and Emma teaching Lucas completely inappropriate songs. I want all of it. Victoria's eyes filled with tears. Even though it's going to be a disaster sometimes, especially because it's going to be a disaster sometimes, perfect is boring. Give me messy and real any day. Victoria laughed through her tears. You're ridiculous. You like it. I really do. She kissed him, and it felt different from the tentative kiss at Christmas. This one felt like a promise. They were still kissing when Emma appeared in the doorway. Gross, she announced. Also, Lucas is awake and probably needs his diaper changed. Victoria pulled away from Noah, blushing. I'll get him. After she left, Emma looked at Noah with raised eyebrows. So you're dating Victoria now? Oh, looks like it. Good. She needs someone to make sure she eats actual food instead of just coffee. Emma grabbed a juice box from the refrigerator. Also, you've been sad for a really long time. Dad, it's good to see you not sad. Noah pulled Emma into a hug. When did you get so smart? I've always been smart. You're just now noticing. The official announcement came 2 weeks later. Not because they wanted to make it public, but because photographers caught Noah leaving Victoria's house at 6 in the morning, and the speculation exploded. Billionaire CEO Victoria Sinclair Dating Foundation Director read the most polite headlines. The others were more invasive, questioning everything from the timeline to Noah's motivations to whether the relationship was appropriate given their professional connection. The foundation's board called an emergency meeting. Noah sat in the conference room feeling like he was on trial, while 7 people in expensive suits debated his relationship like it was a line item on a budget report. The optics are concerning. What? One board member said. It appears as though Mr. Bennett leveraged his position to pursue a relationship with Ms. Sinclair. Or it appears that 2 adults developed feelings while working together, Victoria said coldly from the head of the table, which is what actually happened. Nevertheless, there are questions about propriety. Then let me be clear. Victoria's voice could have cut glass. Noah and I are in a relationship. This doesn't change his role at the foundation, his qualifications, or his commitment to the work. If anyone has a problem with that, you're welcome to resign from this board. The room went silent. David Reeves, who'd been quiet until now, leaned forward. Victoria, we're not questioning your personal choices, but there are legitimate concerns about how this looks. The foundation is still new. We can't afford scandals. This isn't a scandal, it's a relationship. Victoria looked around the table. Noah has built something remarkable in 6 months. The programs he's developed are helping real families. The partnerships he's formed with community organizations are exactly what we need. His personal relationship with me doesn't change any of that. It changes the perception, Reeves argued. Then we change the narrative. We're honest about it. Victoria's expression was firm. I'm not hiding this relationship, and I'm not apologizing for it. If that's a problem for anyone here, say so now. No one spoke. Good. Then we move forward. Next item on the agenda. After the meeting, Noah found Victoria in her office staring out the window. You didn't have to defend me like that. Yes, I did. They were treating you like you did something wrong. Victoria turned to face him. I'm tired of letting other people dictate how we live our lives because they're uncomfortable with things that don't fit their expectations. Your board could make things difficult. Let them try. I own controlling interest in this company. The board advises, they don't rule. Victoria crossed her arms. I'm done apologizing for choosing someone good just because it's inconvenient for other people. Noah felt warmth spread through his chest. Someone good, huh? Don't let it go to your head. Too late. Victoria smiled despite herself. We're really doing this, making it official, dealing with whatever comes? Yeah, we're really doing this. What came was intense and exhausting and sometimes wonderful. The media attention was worse than Noah had anticipated. Photographers camped outside his apartment until the landlord complained, and Noah had to temporarily move himself and Emma into Victoria's house. Emma thought it was an adventure. Noah felt like his privacy was being violated on a daily basis. Online, people had opinions about everything. His relationship with Victoria, his qualifications, whether he was a good father, whether Victoria was making good choices, whether their relationship was appropriate given the age gap. Victoria was 4 years older, apparently scandalous, and the power dynamic. The foundation came under scrutiny too. Journalists dug into every grant decision, every family helped, looking for evidence of favoritism or mismanagement. They found nothing, because Noah ran the foundation with meticulous care, but the investigation itself was exhausting. Patricia, the case manager, found Noah in his office late one night looking defeated. They're trying to break you, she observed. It's working. No, it's not. You're still here, still fighting. Patricia sat down across from him. You know what I see when I look at our program statistics? 300 families stabilized. 200 kids who didn't have to change schools mid-year. 50 parents who found jobs that actually pay living wages. That's what matters. Not what some blogger thinks about your dating life. It's hard to remember that when they're tearing everything apart looking for scandal. That's because there's no real scandal, so they're inventing one. Patricia's voice was firm. You're doing good work, Noah. Don't let them convince you otherwise. That night, Noah went home, Victoria's home, which still didn't quite feel like his, even though he'd been living there for a month, and found Victoria feeding Lucas while Emma did homework at the kitchen table. It looked domestic and normal and completely surreal. How was your day? Victoria asked. Long. Yours? Lucas spit up on 3 different outfits, and I had a conference call with Tokyo at 3 a.m., but other than that, pretty standard. She adjusted Lucas in her arms. Claire's threatening to resign if I don't start sleeping more than 4 hours a night. She has a point. So do I. The company doesn't run itself. You have people for that. I am people. Emma looked up from her homework. You guys sound like an old married couple. It's weird. How would you know what an old married couple sounds like? Noah asked. Mrs. Chen and her husband. They argue about everything, but you can tell they like each other. Emma went back to her math problems. You and Victoria do the same thing. Noah and Victoria exchanged glances. When did she get so observant? Victoria asked. I ask myself that every day. They settled into a routine that was chaotic but functional. Noah handled morning drop-off for Emma, while Victoria did the early feeding with Lucas. They'd both head to the office around 9, Victoria bringing Lucas because she was still nursing, and work until early afternoon. Then Noah would handle the foundation work while Victoria dealt with corporate business from home. Evenings were family time, and that word, family, started feeling less strange the more they used it. Emma took her role as big sister seriously, insisting on helping with everything from bath time to picking out Lucas's clothes. Victoria watched them together with an expression that made Noah's chest tight. She's so good with him, Victoria said one evening while Emma sang off-key lullabies to a drowsy Lucas. She's had practice. Sarah used to let her help with the neighbors' kids. I never had siblings, never really had friends growing up. Seeing Emma just naturally know how to be kind and patient. Victoria's voice caught. I want Lucas to have that, to grow up knowing how to care about people. He will. Emma will teach him. And you and me. Victoria leaned against Noah's shoulder. We're really doing this, aren't it? Building a family. Looks like it. I'm terrified I'm going to screw it up. Noah kissed the top of her head. Welcome to parenthood. The terror never goes away. You just get better at functioning despite it. 3 months after Lucas was born, the foundation held its first impact review. The board gathered to examine what they'd accomplished in the first year and whether the programs were actually making a difference. Noah had prepared for weeks, compiling data and case studies and testimonials from families they'd helped. He stood at the front of the conference room with his presentation ready and his stomach churning. The numbers tell part of the story, Noah started. We've assisted 412 families in our first year. Emergency housing support, job placement services, childcare subsidies, and legal advocacy. But numbers don't capture what these programs actually mean to people. He pulled up a video testimonial. A single mother named Keisha talked about how the foundation's job placement program had helped her find stable work after years of cycling through minimum wage positions that didn't cover her rent. Before I was working 2 jobs and still couldn't make ends meet, Keisha said on the video. My daughter barely saw me. We were 3 weeks from eviction. The foundation didn't just help me find a better job, they gave me stability. Now I can afford our apartment and actually spend time with my kid. That's not just a statistic. That's our whole life changing. Noah played 3 more testimonials, each one showing a different family whose circumstances had improved because of the foundation's work. When the lights came back up, several board members looked moved. Even David Reeves was quiet. These are the outcomes that matter, Noah concluded. Not just whether we spent our budget efficiently, but whether we changed lives. And we have. 400 times over. That's what this foundation exists to do. Victoria was smiling at him from her seat, and Noah felt something settle in his chest. They'd done this. Together, they'd built something that actually mattered. The board approved the second year's budget without debate and increased funding by 30%. After the meeting, Victoria caught Noah in the hallway. That was incredible. It was just honest. Exactly. That's what made it incredible. Victoria glanced around, making sure they were alone, then kissed him quickly. I'm proud of you. What you've built here, it's exactly what I hoped for. We built it. You made this possible. I provided money. You made it matter. Victoria's expression was soft. Thank you, Noah, for all of it. Emma's 10th birthday came with less fanfare than the previous year. Her request, surprisingly. She wanted something small, just family. Family meant Noah, Victoria, Lucas, Mrs. Chen, and Emma's best friend Madison. They had cake at home, watched movies, and Emma declared it her best birthday yet, even though there was no bounce house. This is better, Emma said when Noah tucked her in that night. Last year was fun, but this feels more real. What do you mean? Last year felt like a party. This year felt like family. Emma's expression was serious, like we all actually belong together instead of just pretending. We do belong together. I know, but it's nice that it feels that way now. Emma was quiet for a moment. Dad, can I ask you something? Always. Are you going to marry Victoria? Noah wasn't prepared for the question. I don't know, sweetheart. Why do you ask? Because you love her, I can tell. And she loves you back. That's what people do when they love each other, right? They get married? Sometimes, but not always. And we've only been together a few months. But you're going to eventually? Emma persisted. Because I think you should. Then Lucas would be my real brother, and Victoria would be like my mom, and we'd all actually be a family for real. Noah's throat felt tight. We're already a family, Em. The marriage part doesn't make it more real. But it makes it official, like telling everyone else that we belong together. Emma looked at him with Sarah's eyes. I want that. I want us to be official. I'll think about it. Okay? Okay. But don't think too long. You're both being slow about this. Noah laughed despite the emotions churning in his chest. When did you become the adult in this relationship? I've always been mature for my age. Everyone says so. After Emma fell asleep, Noah found Victoria in the nursery with Lucas. The baby was fighting sleep, fussy and cranky, and Victoria looked exhausted. Let me take him, Noah offered. Victoria handed Lucas over gratefully. He's been like this all evening. I think he's getting a tooth. Noah walked slow circles with Lucas, feeling the baby gradually settle. Emma asked me something tonight. What? If I'm going to marry you. Victoria went very still. What did you tell her? That I didn't know. That we've only been together a few months. Noah looked at Victoria. But the truth is, I do know. I'm just scared it's too soon to say it out loud. Noah said, I'm not asking, not yet. But I want you to know that I'm thinking about it, about making this permanent. He adjusted Lucas in his arms. If that terrifies you, tell me now. Victoria crossed the nursery and wrapped her arms around both Noah and Lucas. It doesn't terrify me. It should, but it doesn't. Good. Because Emma's right. We're being slow about this. We're being careful. There's a difference. Maybe. Or maybe we're both just scared of being happy because we're waiting for it to fall apart. Victoria pulled back to look at him. Is that what you're doing? Yeah. Are you? Yeah. Victoria smiled, sad and honest. I keep waiting for you to realize you can do better than a workaholic billionaire with trust issues and a baby who won't sleep. And I keep waiting for you to realize you can do better than a former warehouse worker with a criminal record and a complicated past. So we're both idiots. Looks like it. Lucas chose that moment to finally fall asleep, his tiny body going limp against Noah's chest. They stood there in the quiet nursery, and Noah felt something shift. Not dramatically, but definitely. They were going to be okay. All of them. Not perfectly, not without problems, but genuinely okay. The real crisis came in May, 6 months into their relationship. The board meeting started normally enough. Financial reports, program updates, routine business. Then David Reeves stood up with a folder in his hands and an expression that made Noah's stomach drop. I've discovered some irregularities in foundation spending, Reeves announced. Specifically, several grants that appear to have been approved without proper vetting. Noah's mind raced. He'd been meticulous about every approval, double-checking everything. What irregularities? 3 families who received emergency housing assistance. All 3 listed the same caseworker as their primary contact, but that person doesn't appear in our employee database. Reeves opened the folder. Furthermore, the rental payments went to properties owned by the same landlord, a company called Beacon Holdings. I know about those grants, Noah said. Patricia vetted all 3 families personally. They were legitimate cases. Then why isn't this caseworker in our system? Patricia, sitting beside Noah, leaned forward. Because she's a volunteer, not an employee. Martha Rodriguez. She works with a community center in Parkside and referred 3 families who needed help. I checked all the documentation myself. And Beacon Holdings? Yeah. It's a nonprofit housing organization, Noah explained. They provide affordable rentals specifically for families transitioning out of homelessness. Those 3 families needed immediate housing. Beacon had units available. It was the fastest way to help them. Reeves looked skeptical. And you didn't think the connection between all 3 cases warranted additional scrutiny? I thought it warranted helping 3 families who were about to be homeless, Noah shot back. That's what we do. But what we do is follow proper procedures to ensure foundation resources aren't being misused. Victoria, who'd been silent until now, spoke up. David, what exactly are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that Noah may have been too eager to help without properly verifying information. At best, it's careless. At worst, Reeves paused significantly. It could indicate that someone is taking advantage of his inexperience. Noah felt rage flash through him. You think I was scammed? Oh, I think you're new to this work and may have been manipulated by someone who saw an opportunity. Those were real families with real needs. I have documentation on all of them, which could have been falsified. Have you physically visited any of these families? Confirmed they actually exist? Noah hadn't. He'd relied on Patricia's vetting and the documentation Martha Rodriguez provided. Standard procedure, but now it sounded negligent. I want an independent audit, Reeves said, of these 3 cases and any others that use similar referral patterns. The board agreed over Noah's protests. After the meeting, Noah found Victoria in her office, pacing. This is a setup, Noah said. David's been waiting for something like this to undermine the foundation. Maybe, but he's not wrong that we need to verify. Victoria's expression was troubled. Noah, did you personally check on those families? Sus boys. Patricia did. I trust her judgment. I know, but David's right that we need to be above reproach. She stopped pacing. I'm going to authorize the audit, not because I don't trust you, but because we need to prove there's nothing wrong. Noah felt betrayed, even though he knew logically Victoria was right. You really think I would be that careless? No, but I think you're human, and humans make mistakes. If there's an error somewhere, we need to find it before someone else does. The audit took 3 weeks and felt like the longest 3 weeks of Noah's life. Investigators combed through every grant decision, interviewed families, checked documentation. They even questioned Patricia, who remained calm throughout, but was clearly angry at the implication she'd done something wrong. Noah couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. The possibility that he'd screwed up, that he'd been too trusting or too eager to help, ate at him constantly. Emma noticed, of course. Dad, you look terrible. Thanks, sweetheart. Very encouraging. I'm serious. You're all stressed out. Emma set down her iPad. Is it because of work? Yeah. Some people think I made mistakes with the foundation. Did you? I don't think so, but I'm not sure anymore. Emma considered this. Mom used to say that making mistakes while trying to help people is better than not trying at all because you're scared of messing up. Your mom was very wise. Oh, Taurus. I know. That's why I remember the stuff she said. Emma hugged him. You're a good person, Dad. Everyone knows that except maybe you. The audit results came back clean. Every family was real. Every grant properly documented. Every case legitimately in need of help. Martha Rodriguez was exactly who she'd claimed to be, a volunteer caseworker who'd been helping struggling families for 15 years. The investigators' report specifically noted that Noah's procedures were thorough and appropriate, and that the foundation's vetting process was well-designed and properly implemented. David Reeves had the grace to look embarrassed when the board reviewed the findings. I apologize, he said stiffly. I was overly cautious. The concerns were unfounded. Well, the concerns were an attempt to discredit Noah, Victoria said coldly. Let's be honest about that. Victoria, no. You've questioned Noah's judgment repeatedly since he started. You've undermined him in meetings, implied he's unqualified, and now publicly accused him of negligence. That stops now. Victoria's voice was ice. Noah has proven himself over and over. The foundation is succeeding because of his work. If you can't support that, you need to reconsider your position on this board. The room was silent. Reeves looked at Noah, and something complicated crossed his face. You're right, I have been unfair. Noah, he paused. You've done good work. I'm sorry for questioning it. It wasn't a particularly warm apology, but it seemed genuine. Noah nodded acceptance, too tired to hold a grudge. After the meeting, Victoria found Noah alone in his office. I'm sorry I doubted you, even for a second. You didn't doubt me. You were being responsible. Noah leaned back in his chair. But it sucked, feeling like even you weren't sure I knew what I was doing. I was sure. Victoria sat down across from him. I got scared. What if I'd pushed you into this role too fast? What if my feelings for you had clouded my judgment about your qualifications? Did they? No. You're brilliant at this work, but fear isn't logical. Victoria reached across the desk and took his hand. I'm sorry for doubting, for not defending you harder when David started questioning things. You defended me today. I should have done it weeks ago. They sat in silence for a moment, hands clasped across the desk. This is hard, Noah said finally, building something together when everyone's watching and waiting for us to fail. Yeah, it is. Victoria squeezed his hand. Worth it, though? Noah thought about Emma and Lucas, about the families they'd helped, about this strange, unexpected life they'd built from a rainy night and a choice to stop instead of driving past. Yeah, he said. Definitely worth it. That night, Noah came home to find Emma and Victoria attempting to cook dinner while Lucas supervised from his bouncer seat. Attempting was the key word. There was flour everywhere, something smoking on the stove, and Emma's hands were covered in what looked like raw egg. "We're making omelets," Emma announced proudly. "You're making a disaster," Noah countered, but he was smiling. "Dad, you're supposed to be encouraging. I'm encouraging you to let me help before you burn the house down." Victoria looked relieved. "Please, I don't know what happened. Emma said omelets were easy. They're easy when you don't turn the heat up to volcanic levels." Noah moved the smoking pan off the burner. "Come on, let's try this again together." They made omelets as a team, or tried to. Anyway, Lucas started crying halfway through and had to be picked up. Emma got distracted and wandered off. Victoria nearly cut herself with a knife trying to dice peppers. It was chaotic and messy, and nothing like the cooking shows made it look. But when they finally sat down to slightly burned omelets and undercooked toast, Noah looked around the table at his strange, complicated family and felt something click into place. This was home. Not the house or the money or the foundation. This, the four of them together, messy and imperfect and real. "I love you," Noah said, looking at Victoria. Everyone went still. Victoria stared at him, eyes wide. "What, E? I love you. I should have said it before, but I was scared and trying to be careful. But I'm done being careful. I love you." Emma grinned. "Finally, I've been waiting for you to say that forever." "Yes, it's been 6 months." "That's forever when you're 10. Victoria was still staring at Noah with tears in her eyes. "You love me?" "Yeah, I really do." "Even though I'm a workaholic with control issues who can't cook? Especially because of that." Victoria laughed, and it turned into a sob, and then she was kissing him across the table while Emma made gagging sounds and Lucas babbled contentedly in his bouncer. "I love you too," Victoria whispered against Noah's lips. "So much it terrifies me." "Good. Terror means we're doing it right." They kissed again, and Emma complained loudly that this was gross and they were going to make her lose her appetite, but she was smiling. Later, after Emma was in bed and Lucas was asleep, and they finally had a moment alone, Victoria curled against Noah on the couch. "Tell me again," she said quietly. "I love you." "I don't think I'll ever get tired of hearing that." "Good, because I plan on saying it a lot." Victoria was quiet for a moment. "I want to marry you, eventually, when you're ready." Noah felt his heart skip. "Eventually? I'm not proposing, not yet. But I want you to know that's where this is heading. For me." Victoria looked up at him. "Is that okay?" Noah thought about everything they'd been through, the storm, the foundation, the scrutiny, the doubts. Thought about Emma and Lucas and the family they were building together. "Yeah," he said. "That's more than okay." They stayed on the couch long after they should have gone to bed, talking about nothing and everything, making plans for a future that finally felt real instead of terrifying. Somewhere in the house, Lucas started crying and Victoria groaned. "I'll get him," Noah offered. "We'll both go." They went upstairs together, and Noah thought about how much had changed in less than a year. How his life had split into before and after the night he'd stopped in the storm. Before had been survival. After was living, and he wouldn't trade it for anything. The proposal happened on a Tuesday afternoon in October, almost exactly 1 year after the night Noah had stopped in the rain. Not romantic, not planned, and absolutely nothing like the elaborate proposals Emma had been suggesting for months. Noah was in the kitchen making sandwiches for lunch while Victoria worked from home and Lucas played with blocks on the floor. Emma was at school. It was ordinary, domestic, completely unremarkable. Then Victoria's phone rang and Noah heard her voice change in the other room. "What do you mean complications? How serious?" Noah abandoned the sandwiches and found Victoria standing by the windows, one hand pressed to her mouth, tears streaming down her face. "Okay. Yes. I'll be there as soon as I can." She hung up and looked at Noah with devastation in her eyes. "That was Claire. She's at the hospital. Her husband had a heart attack this morning. They don't know if—" Victoria's voice broke. "I need to go. Can you watch Lucas?" "Of course. Go. I've got everything here." Victoria grabbed her keys and purse, but at the door she stopped and turned back. She crossed the room quickly, threw her arms around Noah, and held on like she was drowning. "I love you," she said fiercely. "I need you to know that. I love you and Emma and this life we've built, and I don't want to wait anymore." Noah pulled back to look at her. "Victoria," Buka, marry me. Not someday, not eventually. Soon. I want to marry you because life is short and terrible things happen, and I'm tired of being careful. She was crying harder now. Claire's husband is 46 years old. They were supposed to have decades left. And now she's at a hospital not knowing if he'll survive the day. I don't want to waste time we might not have. Well, Noah's own eyes were burning. Is this really how you want to propose? In the middle of a crisis? I don't care how it happens. I just care that it happens. Victoria gripped his hands. Say yes, Noah. Please say yes. Yes, Noah said, and Victoria kissed him hard, tasting of tears and desperation and love. Then she was gone, racing to the hospital to be with Claire, and Noah stood in the kitchen with Lucas babbling at his feet and his heart pounding. They were getting married. Claire's husband survived, though it was close. The heart attack had been massive, requiring emergency surgery and days in the ICU. Claire practically lived at the hospital, and Victoria was there almost as much, bringing food and sitting with her assistant during the long, frightening hours. She's been with me for 8 years. Victoria told Noah one night after coming home exhausted. She's not just my assistant, she's my friend, one of the only real friends I have. Noah understood. He'd seen how Claire managed Victoria's impossible schedule while somehow making it look effortless. How she anticipated needs before Victoria articulated them, how she protected Victoria's time and privacy like a guard dog. She's going to need time off when he's released, Victoria said. Probably months. I don't know how I'm going to manage without her. You'll figure it out, that's what you do. Victoria leaned against him, exhausted. I'm so tired, Noah. Of work, of responsibility, of feeling like I can't let anyone down because too many people depend on me. So delegate. Hire someone to fill in for Claire temporarily. Let your executives actually execute instead of running every decision through you. Noah ran his fingers through her hair. Noah ran. You don't have to carry everything yourself. I don't know how to not carry everything. I know, but maybe it's time to learn. Over the next few weeks, Victoria slowly started letting go. She hired a temporary assistant to handle the immediate crisis of Claire's absence. She pushed more decision-making authority to her vice presidents, including David Reeves, who surprised everyone by stepping up competently. I think I've been micromanaging out of fear, Victoria admitted one evening. If I control everything, nothing can go wrong. Except things go wrong anyway, and I just exhaust myself trying to prevent the inevitable. Welcome to the human condition, Noah said. None of us can control as much as we think we can. That's a depressing thought, or a freeing one. Depends on how you look at it. Emma took the engagement news with the smugness of someone who'd been predicting it for months. Finally, she announced, I've been waiting forever for you two to figure this out. It's been a year, Noah protested. A whole year. That's ages. Emma looked at Victoria seriously. Are we going to have a wedding? Can I be a bridesmaid? Can Lucas be the ring bearer even though he's too little to actually carry rings? Yes to all of that, Victoria said, smiling. If it's okay with your dad, more than okay. Noah looked at his daughter and saw Sarah in her expression. The joy, the certainty that love was always worth celebrating. Your mom would have loved this. Emma's smile wobbled. You think so? I know so. She wanted me to be happy, wanted you to have a full life with people who love you. Noah pulled Emma into a hug. This is what she would have wanted for us. I wish she could be here, though. Me too, sweetheart. Me too, Anne. They kept the engagement quiet for a few weeks, wanting to savor it privately before the media circus started. But someone always talked, and by November the news had leaked. It's talked, and by Ad. The response was predictably mixed. Supporters celebrated, sending congratulations and well wishes. Critics questioned everything from the timeline to Noah's motivations to whether Victoria was making good decisions while stressed about Claire's situation. Woman makes personal decision, strangers have opinions, Noah joked, reading headlines. Film at 11. It's exhausting, Victoria said. Why does everyone think they're entitled to comment on our lives? Because you're rich, and I'm not. And that makes people uncomfortable. They want there to be a story that makes sense to them. Noah set his phone down. Let them think whatever they want. We know the truth. The truth was messy and complicated and real. They fought sometimes. about work-life balance, about how much Victoria traveled for business, about Noah's tendency to take on too much at the foundation because he couldn't say no to families who needed help. They weren't perfect partners, weren't even particularly compatible on paper, but they worked. When Victoria got too deep in her own head about corporate strategy, Noah pulled her back to what mattered. When Noah spiraled into self-doubt about whether he belonged in this life, Victoria reminded him of everything he'd accomplished. They balanced each other, challenged each other, made each other better. Emma and Lucas balanced them too. Emma, with her blunt observations about when the adults were being ridiculous. Lucas, with his complete indifference to anything except whether he was fed, clean, and held enough. Children are nature's perspective adjusters, Patricia observed one day when Noah brought both kids to the office. Hard to take yourself too seriously when there's a baby drooling on your shoulder and a 10-year-old informing you that your tie is ugly. My tie is not ugly. It's very boring, though, Emma said, not looking up from her book. Patricia's right. The wedding planning was surprisingly painless, mostly because neither Noah nor Victoria cared about elaborate ceremonies. They wanted something small and meaningful, not a spectacle. Immediate family only, Victoria decided. Emma, Lucas, Mrs. Chen. Claire, if her husband's healthy enough by then. Maybe a few close friends. The board's going to expect an invitation. The board can expect whatever they want. This is our wedding, not a corporate event. Victoria's expression was firm. I'm done performing for other people. This is about us. They settled on a spring ceremony in Victoria's garden, simple and intimate. Emma would be maid of honor, even though she insisted the title should be Supreme Wedding Commander instead. Lucas would be held by Mrs. Chen during the vows, because he was still too little to understand what was happening, but old enough to shriek at inconvenient moments. Planning gave them something joyful to focus on, while Claire's husband slowly recovered. He was home by December, weak but alive, and Claire returned to work part-time in January with strict doctor's orders about stress management. Life's too short, Claire said during her first day back. I'm not spending it managing every minute of your schedule anymore, Victoria. You need to learn to do some of this yourself. I've hired a junior assistant to help. Good. Delegate to them. I'm handling the essential stuff and going home at 5. Claire's voice was firm. My husband almost died. I'm not missing any more time with him because of work. Victoria hugged her. I'm so glad you're okay, both of you. We're lucky, but luck runs out if you don't pay attention to what matters. Claire pulled back and looked at Victoria seriously. Don't wait for a crisis to figure out your priorities. Marry Noah. Build your life. Let work be work instead of everything. The Foundation's second-year review showed even stronger results than the first. They'd helped over 600 families, expanded into 3 new cities, and built partnerships with community organizations across the state. The model was working, and other cities were asking how to replicate it. We're going to need to scale, Patricia said during a planning meeting. Either train people in other cities to do what we're doing, or expand our own operations significantly. Noah felt the old panic rising. More responsibility, more people depending on him, more ways to potentially fail. Or we could stay regional, he suggested. Do what we're doing really well instead of spreading ourselves too thin. We could, Patricia agreed, but there are families in every city who need this kind of help. Are we really going to say no because it's safer to stay small? Noah looked at Victoria, who was listening carefully. What do you think? He asked her. I think Patricia's right, but I also think you're right that we shouldn't grow faster than we can sustain. Victoria tapped her pen against the table. What if we create a training program? Teach other nonprofits our model instead of trying to run everything ourselves. Open source the whole approach. Noah felt something click. That could work. We become a resource instead of trying to be everywhere at once. Exactly. More sustainable, more scalable, and keeps our core mission focused. They spent the next several months developing the training program, documenting everything they'd learned, creating resources other organizations could use. It was hard work, but good work. The kind that felt like building something that would outlast them. Emma turned 11 in March. And this time she wanted a simple party with just her closest friends at a trampoline park. No elaborate estates, no bounce houses, just normal kid chaos. I'm over fancy parties, Emma announced. They're fun, but they're not really me. What is really you? Victoria asked. I don't know yet, but I'll figure it out. Emma shrugged with the confidence of someone who believed she had time to answer big questions. Noah watched his daughter bounce with her friends and felt the ache of time passing. She wasn't little anymore. In another year, she'd be in middle school, then high school, then gone to college before he was ready. The thought terrified him and filled him with pride in equal measure. She's growing up so fast, Victoria said, watching Emma attempt to flip and nearly succeed. Too fast. But good, right? She's happy, confident, knows who she is. Yeah. Noah pulled Victoria closer. You've been good for her, for both of us. You've been good for me too, for Lucas. Victoria rested her head on his shoulder. I never thought I'd have this. Real family, real partnership, someone who sees past the money and the company to just me. Just you is pretty great. Just me is a mess. A great mess. Victoria laughed, and Noah thought about how much laughter there was in their life now. How the hard days were balanced by moments of genuine joy instead of just grinding through one obligation after another. The wedding was set for April 28th, exactly 18 months after Noah had stopped in the rain. The week before, Noah found himself at Sarah's grave for the first time in months. He brought flowers, daisies, because Sarah had loved how simple and cheerful they were, and sat on the grass talking to her like he used to. I'm getting married next week, he told the headstone. To Victoria. You'd like her, I think. She's stubborn and driven and terrible at cooking, but she loves Emma like she's her own. And Lucas, you'd love Lucas. He's got your smile somehow, even though he's not ours. The wind rustled through the cemetery trees, and Noah let himself pretend it was Sarah listening. I spent so long feeling guilty about moving on, like loving someone else meant forgetting you. But Emma was right. You'd want this for us. You'd want us to be happy. His throat was tight. I'll always love you, always miss you, but I'm ready to build a new life now. I think you'd understand that. Noah stayed until the sun started setting, then drove home to the family waiting for him. The one he'd built from broken pieces and unexpected chances, and the simple choice to stop instead of driving past someone who needed help. The wedding day dawned clear and warm, perfect spring weather. Emma woke Noah up at 6 because she was too excited to sleep. This is it, you're getting married. She bounced on his bed like she was 5 instead of 11. Are you nervous? Terrified. Why? You love Victoria and she loves you. That's the hard part. The wedding is just the party. When did you get so wise? I've always been wise. You're just now noticing. Emma grinned. Come on, we need to get ready. Mrs. Chen is already downstairs making breakfast, and she said if we're late, she's eating all the pancakes herself. The ceremony was at 3 o'clock, which meant Noah spent the morning oscillating between calm and panic. Emma talked him through it, somehow managing to be both the excited kid and the stable adult. Dad, breathe, you're turning purple. I'm fine. You're not fine, you're freaking out. Emma took his hands. Why? What are you scared of? Noah thought about it. What if I'm not good enough? What if Victoria realizes she made a mistake? Then she wouldn't be marrying you. Emma's voice was matter of fact. Victoria's smart. She doesn't make big decisions without thinking. If she's marrying you, it's because she knows exactly who you are and wants that person. How are you 11? I pay attention, and I remember what Mom used to say, that love isn't about finding someone perfect. It's about finding someone whose imperfections fit with yours. Emma squeezed his hands. You and Victoria fit. Everyone can see it except maybe you. By 3 o'clock, Noah was standing in Victoria's garden with about 30 people scattered on chairs and the judge who'd agreed to officiate waiting patiently. Emma stood beside him as maid of honor, holding Lucas, who was dressed in a tiny suit and looked bewildered by all the attention. Then Victoria appeared, and Noah forgot how to breathe. She wore a simple cream dress, no veil, hair loose around her shoulders. She looked nervous and happy and absolutely beautiful. Not magazine cover beautiful, but real person beautiful. The kind that came from loving someone and being loved back. Claire walked her down the makeshift aisle, since Victoria's father was gone and she had no other family who mattered. When Claire handed her off to Noah, she whispered, "Take care of her. She needs you." "I will," Noah promised. The ceremony was short. Traditional vows because neither of them had wanted to write their own and risk falling apart in front of everyone. When the judge pronounced them married and told Noah to kiss his bride, the kiss was soft and sweet and tasted like possibility. Emma cheered loudly. Lucas shrieked. Mrs. Chen cried happy tears. David Reeves looked genuinely moved, which Noah counted as a minor miracle. The reception was casual, catered food on tables scattered around the garden, music from a playlist Victoria had made, no formal dances or speeches unless people wanted to give them. It felt more like a really good backyard barbecue than a billionaire's wedding, which was exactly what they'd wanted. Patricia cornered Noah while Victoria was talking to Claire. "You did good, boss. I got married. I didn't accomplish anything." "Bull! You built a life. You helped hundreds of families build theirs. You took a chance on something good instead of hiding in what was safe." Patricia's smile was warm. "That's accomplishment enough." Later, after most guests had left and Emma had fallen asleep in a garden chair with Lucas dozing in her arms, Noah and Victoria sat together on the patio steps watching the sunset. "We did it," Victoria said softly. "We did. I keep waiting to feel different, but I just feel like me, like us. Is that disappointing?" "No, it's perfect." Victoria leaned against him. "I spent so much of my life thinking I needed to be something more successful, more impressive, more untouchable. But this is what I actually wanted. Someone to sit with while the sun sets, kids sleeping nearby, a life that matters beyond quarterly earnings." Noah kissed her temple. "You're allowed to want simple things." "I'm starting to figure that out." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, and Noah thought about the journey that had brought them here. The storm, the meeting, the foundation, the scandals, the love that had grown despite every reason to be careful. It hadn't been smooth or easy or anything like the fairy tales Emma had grown up reading, but it had been real, and real was better than perfect any day. Emma stirred, blinked awake, and looked around in confusion before remembering where she was. "Did I fall asleep during your wedding?" "Just the reception part," Noah said. "You didn't miss anything important." "Good." Emma carefully adjusted Lucas, who was still sleeping, against her shoulder. "Can we go inside? I'm tired and Lucas is heavy." They moved inside together, the four of them, and got the kids settled in their rooms. Then Noah and Victoria stood in the hallway of their home, because it was their home now, officially, not just Victoria's house where Noah happened to live, and looked at each other. "So," Victoria said, "we're married." "Looks like it." "What do we do now?" "Same thing we did yesterday. Make breakfast, go to work, help people, come home to the kids. Try not to screw up too badly." Victoria smiled. "That's it? That's married life? That's life, married or not. The only difference is we're doing it together officially instead of unofficially." "I like that difference." "Me too." They went to bed early because they were exhausted from the day and from life in general. No dramatic wedding night, no grand romantic gestures. Just two people who loved each other falling asleep in the same bed like they had been for months, except now they had rings and legal documentation. It was decidedly unromantic and absolutely perfect. The months that followed were busy in ways that felt purposeful instead of just overwhelming. The Foundation's training program launched with 12 nonprofits from across the country participating. Claire's husband continued recovering, slowly regaining strength. Emma started middle school with the confidence of someone who knew exactly who she was. Lucas took his first steps, then immediately fell and cried, which felt like an appropriate metaphor for most of life. Victoria gradually learned to delegate more, to trust her team, to leave work at work instead of bringing it home every night. She was still driven and ambitious, but she'd found boundaries that made space for the rest of her life. Noah learned to accept that he belonged in this world he'd accidentally entered, that his past struggles didn't make him less qualified, they made him more effective, that he could help people from a position of resources and influence in ways he never could have done alone. They weren't perfect at any of it. They still fought about work-life balance. Victoria still micromanaged sometimes. Noah still doubted himself when the criticism got loud. Emma still rolled her eyes at them both and told them they were being ridiculous. But they were trying. building something sustainable instead of just surviving day to day. One evening in July, almost 2 years after the night in the rain, Noah found Victoria sitting on the patio watching Lucas play in the grass. Emma was at a friend's house, and the summer evening was warm and peaceful. "You okay?" Noah asked, sitting beside her. "I was just thinking about that night. When you stopped." Victoria looked at him. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you'd driven past?" "Sometimes. I think about it a lot, how close I came to losing everything that matters because everyone else decided I wasn't worth the inconvenience." Her voice was quiet. "You saved my life that night. Not just literally, but in every way that counts. You saved mine too. I was drowning before you offered me the foundation job, working myself to death and calling it providing for Emma. So we saved each other." "Yeah, I think we did." Victoria was quiet for a moment, watching Lucas discover a dandelion and immediately try to eat it. "You know what I've learned from all this? From us?" "What?" "That the most important decisions we make aren't the big calculated ones. They're the small choices in ordinary moments. You choosing to stop that night instead of driving past. Me choosing to trust someone I just met. Emma choosing to open her heart to me and Lucas. All the tiny decisions that led us here." Noah thought about that, about how much of life came down to simple choices that didn't feel significant until you looked back and saw how they'd changed everything. "I think you're right," he said. "We spend so much time trying to plan and control big outcomes when really it's the small stuff that shapes who we become." Very philosophical for a Tuesday evening. "I have my moments." Victoria laughed and reached for his hand. "I love you, Noah Bennett, even when you're being philosophical on Tuesday evenings. I love you too, even when you're overthinking everything instead of just enjoying the moment. I'm working on that. I know, we both are." They sat together while Lucas played in the sunset and the summer air filled with the sound of crickets and distant traffic. It was ordinary and unremarkable and absolutely everything Noah had never known he wanted. Emma came home around 8, full of stories about her friend's pool party and how Jordan had done a belly flop that was totally epic but also looked super painful. They made dinner together, all 4 of them in the kitchen. Lucas made a mess with his food, throwing more on the floor than actually eating. Emma talked nonstop about her plans for the summer. Victoria burned the garlic bread and Noah pretended not to notice. It was chaotic and imperfect and real. After dinner, while Victoria gave Lucas a bath and Emma video called her friend to discuss very important 11-year-old business, Noah stood at the kitchen window looking out at the garden where they'd gotten married. He thought about Sarah, about the life they'd planned that had been cut short, about the years of grief and survival and just barely holding on, about the storm that had changed everything. There was no grand revelation, no moment of perfect clarity, just the quiet understanding that life kept moving forward whether you were ready or not, that loss and love could coexist, that you could honor your past while building your future, that sometimes the worst moments led to the best ones if you were brave enough to keep going. "Dad?" Emma appeared beside him. "You okay? You look all thoughtful." "I'm good, sweetheart. Just thinking." "About what?" Noah pulled Emma into a side hug. "About how lucky we are. How much good can come from just choosing to help someone who needs it." "You mean Victoria?" "I mean everyone. Every family the foundation helps. Every person who chooses kindness over convenience. All of it connects." He kissed the top of Emma's head. "You were right, you know. About what your mom would have wanted." "I know, I'm always right," Emma grinned. "It's my superpower." "Well, confidence is definitely your superpower." "Nope, my superpower is knowing when you and Victoria are being dumb about feelings and telling you to fix it." Emma looked up at him seriously. "You're not being dumb right now, right? You're happy?" "Yeah, Em, I'm really happy." "Good, because you deserve it, and so does Victoria, and me and Lucas." She paused. "Mostly me, though." Noah laughed and hugged her tighter. "Mostly you, obviously." Later that night, after both kids were asleep and the house was finally quiet, Noah and Victoria sat in their bedroom talking about nothing important, work schedules for the week, whether they needed to hire another staff member at the foundation, whether Lucas's constant runny nose was allergies or a cold, ordinary married couple conversation, the kind Noah had taken for granted with Sarah and thought he'd never have again. "Thank you," Noah said suddenly. Victoria looked up from her phone. For what? For seeing something in me that night. For taking a chance on someone you had no reason to trust. You made it easy. You were genuine when everyone else in my life is performing. Victoria set her phone aside. I'm the one who should be thanking you. You gave me a real family, a real life. Something that matters beyond profit margins and market share. So we're even? I think we're better than even. I think we're exactly where we're supposed to be. Noah couldn't argue with that. They fell asleep tangled together. And sometime in the early morning, Lucas woke up crying. Noah got up automatically, Victoria stirring but not fully waking. He picked up his son, because Lucas was his son now, in every way that mattered, and walked slow circles around the nursery until the baby settled. Through the window, Noah could see the first hints of dawn lighting the sky. A new day starting, full of unknown possibilities and guaranteed chaos, and all the messy, beautiful complications of life with people you loved. He thought about the man he'd been 2 years ago, exhausted, barely surviving, choosing between his daughter's future and a stranger's crisis. How that version of him had stopped anyway, not because he was noble or heroic, but because he was human and couldn't drive past someone who needed help. That one choice had led to everything. The foundation, the relationship, this family, this life. Sometimes Noah wondered what would have happened if he'd made a different choice. Kept driving, made the meeting, gotten the promotion. Would he have clawed his way to stability through sheer determination? Probably. He'd always been good at surviving, but surviving wasn't the same as living. And this, Lucas sleeping against his shoulder, Victoria in their bed, Emma down the hall, a home filled with love instead of just furniture. This was living. Noah didn't believe in fate or destiny or the universe having a plan. He believed in choices, in kindness, in the way small moments of human decency could change everything. He believed that most people were doing the best they could with what they had. That failure and success weren't opposites, but part of the same messy journey. That you could make mistakes and still deserve second chances. That wealth and poverty were often just luck and circumstance, not moral judgments about character. He believed in helping people because they were people, not because they'd earned it or deserved it or jumped through the right hoops. In treating everyone with dignity regardless of their circumstances. In building systems that lifted people up instead of grinding them down. He believed in love that was complicated and imperfect and real. In family that was built rather than born. In the idea that your past didn't determine your worth, and your struggles could become your strength. Most of all, he believed in showing up, in stopping when others drove past, in doing the hard thing because it was right, even when it cost you something. That was what he wanted Lucas to learn. What Emma already understood. What Victoria had been teaching herself after a lifetime of believing she had to be invulnerable. That the most important thing you could be was human. Flawed, scared, uncertain, but still choosing kindness anyway. Lucas shifted in Noah's arms, and Noah looked down at his son's peaceful sleeping face. In a few years, Lucas would be running around with Emma, learning from her confidence and her compassion. He'd grow up in a house where love was shown through actions more than words, where failure was treated as part of learning, where asking for help was strength instead of weakness. He'd grow up knowing that people mattered more than money, that success was measured in lives changed, not bank accounts filled, that the storm would come for everyone eventually, and what mattered was whether you stopped to help or drove past. Noah settled Lucas back in his crib and returned to bed. Victoria mumbled something incoherent and curled against him, still mostly asleep. Noah wrapped his arms around his wife and thought about the future they were building together. It wouldn't be easy. There would be more scandals, more criticism, more days when the weight of everything felt impossible to carry. The foundation would face challenges. Emma would become a teenager with all the complications that entailed. Lucas would grow up in a world that judged him by his mother's wealth before seeing who he actually was. But they'd face all of it together, as a family, as partners, as people who'd learned that the hard way was usually the only way worth taking. Noah closed his eyes and let himself believe in tomorrow, in the possibility that things could keep getting better, that the storm that had almost destroyed his future had actually saved it, that sometimes the worst moments became doorways to the best ones, that life, in all its messy, imperfect glory, was worth every hard choice and every risk taken. And that love, real love, complicated love, earned love, was always, always worth fighting for. The sun rose over their home, light spilling through the windows, illuminating the family sleeping peacefully inside. A new day beginning, another chance to choose kindness, to build something meaningful, to live instead of just survive. The storm had passed, but what it left behind was better than anything Noah had imagined possible that rainy night when he decided to stop. Sometimes all it took was one choice, one moment of compassion, one person seeing another person's humanity and refusing to look away. That was the story Noah would tell Lucas someday, would remind Emma of when she needed it, would live every day with Victoria by his side. Not a fairy tale, not perfect, just real. And real was the only kind of happiness worth having.